We are live, and I hit record.
Well, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. We are here, North Clackamas School Board, Thursday, January 14, 2021. This is our work session. We are focused on reopening schools and changes to the state health metrics. I'll go ahead and hand it off to our superintendent, Matt Utterback.
Thank you, Chair Ford. I'm going to share my screen here. Great. So good evening, Board of Directors, parents, students, and staff that are watching our board meeting this evening. Our meeting tonight is beginning with a work session on the status of reopening schools in the North Clackamas School District, as well as changes to the state health metrics for returning to in-person instruction. I have members of our district's leadership team joining me tonight that can assist in answering questions. So we are 10 months into what is likely going to be a 2-year pandemic. Since we closed schools on March 13th, we built and have implemented 3 different instructional models: distance learning for all, comprehensive distance learning, and our virtual online program. Today, we are continuing to build an elementary hybrid model, as well as limited in-person instruction options for our students. The unbelievable lift our staff has undertaken in the past 10 months must be acknowledged and celebrated. In addition, our students and our parents must be recognized for their resilience and their patience and their perseverance that they too have undergone over the course of the last 10 months. We are all conquering new skills and strategies that will continue to serve each of us well after the pandemic. And we know that comprehensive distance learning does have some limitations. So as a school system, we need to continue to build on our new learnings. We must continue to grow and refine our online teaching techniques. And we must continue to break down the barriers for students in this new online world. I've spent my entire professional career in the North Clackamas School District, 6 years as a teacher and 26 years as an administrator. And during that time, we have been presented with our share of crisis, struggles, and concerns. But none of this has prepared our school district and our community, our state, or our nation for the prolonged impacts that this virus has had on the lives of each of us and on our school system. Many of us continue to experience a range of emotions as we navigate this pandemic. Today, those range of emotions sit at the center of this conversation. In my observations of our classrooms, in our meetings, in my conversations with staff and community and parents, or reading through the numerous emails and letters that I've received, I've heard and I've seen fear, confusion, anxiety, frustration. I've also seen compassion and hope and opportunity. I've seen tears and I've seen excited smiles. I've heard and seen frustration and the joy of figuring out something new. And like many issues and struggles in our country today, the decisions around reopening schools can be polarizing. The calls to reopen or to keep schools closed are filled with that passion and that reason and that emotion. But at the end of the day, I have faith, I have strong faith, and I have strong belief in our community and in our school district that we will continue to navigate our way through these uncharted waters. What I know is that when we demonstrate care and love for one another, we will get through this stronger, more innovative, and a more compassionate community. Which brings me to today. The purpose of this work session tonight is to hear the latest information from our state leaders, examine some of the latest data and research, to remind and ground ourselves in our decision-making tools and values, and to discuss our path forward. These are highly complex and complicated discussions and components regarding the education of our students. There is not a single path forward that will satisfy each member of our community. But that being said, we need to continue to listen to our students, to our parents, and to our staff. And we need to listen to seek to understand. And we need to do that through an equity lens. So tonight, will lead us through a discussion of looking at where we currently stand, what changes we have in the health metrics, where does Clackamas County currently stand with regards to those health metrics, talk a little bit about some legal liability, our decision-making tools, some values and guiding thoughts, the status of where we are with our elementary hybrid planning, the status update on where we are with limited in-person instruction. I'll give an update on activities and athletics. And finally, I'll conclude with some new recommendations that will, I think, provide a jumping off point for discussions moving forward. And I want to close with student and staff safety. And we'll have some time at the end of this presentation for questions and board discussion. So back on October 22nd, our school board took the following action. That action was to continue in comprehensive distance learning for kindergarten through 12th grade through second quarter. That's February 9th. And you authorized me to do the following: to pilot small group instruction and services on site according to our state guidelines and safety protocols. You asked that we facilitate Oregon School Activity Association high school athletic group access to district fields beginning in early November, and according to OSAA and OHA safety and health guidelines. And you directed me to revisit these timelines with you should the required COVID-19 Oregon health metrics for in-person instruction be modified. So as we know, on December 23rd, Governor Brown announced new guidelines on the reopening of schools in a letter to the directors of the Oregon Health Authority and to the director of the Oregon Department of Education. In her letter, Governor Brown called on local school boards, superintendents, educators, and school employees to work together toward the resumption of in-person instruction. The governor's guidelines and guidance prioritizes elementary education with the hope of returning to and transitioning to in-person instruction by February 15th. In addition, beginning on January 1st of this year, the health metrics for returning to in-person instruction transition from being mandatory requirements to advisory recommendations. And furthermore, the governor called on the state health and education officials to revisit and possibly revise these health metrics by January 19th. And that is next Tuesday. While Clackamas County infection rates had dropped in the 3 weeks preceding January 2nd, they went back up this last week. As the county health data metrics by county currently stand, Clackamas County is far from meeting the advisory metrics to return students to in-person instruction. There is also concern both locally and, as we've seen nationally, of a surge in virus infections in the coming weeks due to the recent holidays, the weather, a new and more infectious strain of the coronavirus spreading throughout the country, and the result of a pandemic fatigue, people's unwillingness to follow the health and safety protocols. So as we look at the new advisory health metrics versus the mandatory metrics, it's important to look at them from a district liability perspective. School boards, your school board's legal counsel, and the Oregon School Boards Association is advising the school district that the district could risk losing liability immunity under House Bill 4402 if the district decided to reopen for in-person instruction if those advisory health metrics are not met, even though they are described as advisory instead of mandatory. But while no court has yet considered this question under the new liability legislation, the broad definition of the emergency order suggests that even advisory metrics could be considered part of the emergency order, and districts would need to be in compliance with those advisory metrics to qualify for the immunity under House Bill 4402. So those first few slides talked about our current status. Next, I'd like to shift to decision making. When making decisions throughout this pandemic, district leadership and the school board have worked with community partners, our students, parents, staff, employee associations, the Oregon Department of Education, and the Clackamas County Health Department. And we continue to be guided in our decision making by our district's direction and by our strategic plan and those core values in our strategic plan. And we are driven by our belief that we're preparing graduates who are inspired and empowered to strengthen the quality of life in our local and global communities. And we do that when we pay attention and focus on equity, engagement, care, integrity, and excellence. And again, as we have throughout the pandemic, we continue to be guided in our decision-making process by these four beliefs: valuing a high quality education and the academic progress of each child, by working towards low rates of COVID-19 virus transmission in the community, coordinated actions that underscore the safety and care for people and provide reassurance for our students, staff, and parents. And finally, that we stand ready with multiple education delivery models that are responsive to the current health and community needs. Our decisions also continue to be guided by the required expectations of the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Education, specifically the Ready School Safe Learners document and each school's operational blueprint for re-entry. And I'll talk more about these in a few minutes. And finally, as school districts transition to new instructional models, the state recommends that districts consider using an equity-based decision tool. An equity-based decision tool illustrates potential positive and negative impacts on students and families and staff from all communities. A decision tool can inform a school district or a school regarding issues of equity and implementation, including timing and cost, both to the school and families, capacity, morale, disproportionate impacts, professional learning, and more. For a number of years, our school district has utilized this equity lens that is being projected now in our decision making. And in addition, North Clackamas Schools has an established commitment to the public health of our community and the safety of both students and staff. And this includes a thorough consideration of how this virus transmission rates are affecting our community members. And what we know is that we have particular concern are the disproportionate rates of COVID-19 among Oregonians who identify as Pacific Islander, Native American, Alaska Native, Black and African American, and Hispanic and Latinx communities. So I've talked thus far about where we currently stand, and hopefully I've regrounded ourselves in our decision-making tools. So next I'd like to shift to looking ahead and what that could look like. Back in November, we talked with the school board about shifting to an elementary hybrid model when it was safe to do so. And shortly after that board conversation, infection rates began to increase, and we never hit those metrics for implementing this new model. But what we know is that comprehensive distance learning has both strengths and it has some limitations. I do worry about our youngest learners and their ability to acquire critical academic skills, social emotional expectations, as well as positive peer-to-peer interaction skills. Our youngest learners typically don't have the same attention spans and technology skills of our older students that are needed in a virtual classroom. The planning does continue for an elementary hybrid model that is partially in-person and partially online, while keeping comprehensive distance learning, that fully online model that we're currently operating in, as an option for any family that wants that. The elementary hybrid would be ready to implement several weeks after the health metrics for returning to in-person instruction are met. And that hybrid model would start with grades K1 and then potentially roll up to grades 2 and 3 if the health metrics were to continue to be met. The district would then assess how well the model is working before potentially expanding to other grades. The shift to an elementary hybrid model for students is being guided by feedback from our parents. In December, we surveyed our parents, and for those that were unable to respond to the survey, we made attempts to phone call them to get their response. And what our survey showed was that approximately 68% of our families would prefer their students to be instructed in a hybrid model. And approximately 31% of our families would remain in comprehensive distance learning. The district was not able to connect either through the online survey or by follow-up phone calls with approximately 15% of our families. An 85% response rate is significant. What I can also share with the board tonight and the community is that the response results among demographic groups was generally within 10 percentage points of the average. And the response rates among demographic groups was very similar. We have since followed up since the last time we met. District leadership has also conducted an interview of elementary certified staff to assist in determining who can safely return to in-person instruction. And school level teams of various employee groups will be meeting in the coming weeks to develop and continue to revise the health, safety, and instructional practices that best meet the needs of each school within those guidelines of ready schools and safe learners. While continuing with daily instruction and school operations, recent planning and actions have included refining the daily schedule to maximize learning while maintaining the safety requirements and labor agreements. We've been working to determine the number of hybrid and comprehensive distance learning class sections per grade level at each school based upon that family survey information. We're continuing with refining the health and safety protocols by our risk management team and other teams in the district. Transportation is working on bus routes, and nutrition services is considering meal service options. But in addition to all of that work, the district will need to consider these factors after committing to moving forward with the elementary hybrid model. We still have over 120 laid off in school employees. And we know that while we will be able to recall many of them, some may have moved on to other employment opportunities, and we will need to rehire staff. And we know that that's a multi-week process to do that. We know that once we make the commitment at some point to move to an elementary hybrid model, should we do that, that the training of staff in numerous safety protocols and professional development for how to teach students in an environment that will not allow for close partner work or small group interaction will need to happen. We know that we have a significant amount of parent communication that will need to happen on the new instructional model, teacher assignments, weekly schedule, safety protocols, meal service operation, and transportation. And we know that we will need to work and figure out how to maintain adequate staffing through these safety protocols to cover staff absences and the potential need to cover staff needing to isolate or quarantine. While we continue to develop that elementary hybrid model, we are also continuing to develop options in the form of limited in-person instruction. Previously, we referred to limited in-person instruction as LIPI, L-I-P-I, and LIPI is allowed as an additional support to students, but it does not replace comprehensive distance learning. Instead, it provides a small cohort of 20 students or fewer the opportunity to access school staff on site in short time periods to receive additional academic and social emotional support. The district has paused the rollout of limited in-person instruction due to the escalation of infection rates in Clackamas County. And finally, we continue to work on high school athletics and activities, and I'll give you an update here. Since we spoke last time and you granted permission for high school students to access our high school fields and other outside venues in the school district, we have hundreds of high school students that are participating in weekly after-school athletic training and conditioning sessions, following those strict health and safety protocols. Coaches and students are following those protocols, and the rollout of these training and conditioning sessions has gone exceptionally well. North Clackamas high schools are members of the Oregon School Activities Association, OSAA, and under OSAA's revised athletic calendar, Season 2, which is also known as the fall season of cross-country football, soccer, and volleyball, is currently scheduled to start between February 8th and February 22nd, and it will run through April 11th. What we know today, I think that's really important, is what we know today is that cross-country and soccer, both outdoors and considered either no contact or limited contact sports, respectively, are allowed to compete even when a county is in the extreme risk level, like Clackamas County is in. All indoor activities, including volleyball, are prohibited when a county is in the extreme risk category. And full contact sports remain prohibited across the state, and that includes football, wrestling, and basketball. So that brings me to our proposed recommendations on reopening. We are a large and complex organization, and it takes weeks and months of planning to change our educational delivery model. Planning for a hybrid learning model occurred last summer, as many recall, but was paused when the decision was made to shift to comprehensive distance learning when those new health metrics were initiated. In November, we did renew planning for the elementary hybrid model in hopes that when it was safe to do so, we could shift to that model. And in order to give our staff and parents the necessary time to plan and provide feedback, it is important that we put some date on the calendar that provides some clarity on the earliest possible date for implementation of in-person learning. So the proposed recommendation that I'm sharing with the board tonight is that once the health metrics for returning to in-person instruction are met for 2 consecutive weeks, but not before February 16th, we would transition to an elementary hybrid model for grades K-1. And again, while maintaining comprehensive distance learning option for those families that want that. Approximately 2 weeks after implementing that K-1 elementary hybrid, and with Clackamas County still meeting the health metrics for returning to in-person instruction, we would look to expand the elementary hybrid to grades 2-3. All other grades would remain in comprehensive distance learning. It's important, I think, to point out that that February 16th date coincides with the end of our second quarter or first semester, with several additional planning days provided to elementary teachers that would be moving into this model. The second part of this recommendation is that once the health metrics for returning to in-person instruction are met, but not before February 16th, we would allow the implementation of limited in-person instruction at all grades. And the third part of the recommendation is, as members of the OSAA, we would seek board approval to allow district high schools to participate in OSAA approved and designated high school activities, following all safety and health protocols for athletes, coaches, and spectators, as outlined by the Oregon Health Authority and OSAA. The school board could take action on these recommendations on January 28th. I think it's important to note that these recommendations are based on meeting state metrics. They're also based on the district's ability to meet the health and safety protocols. They're based on parent feedback and the governor's desire to return students, elementary students, to in-person instruction. What these recommendations do not take into consideration is the vaccine availability of our K-12 employees. Therefore, I'd like to take my last few minutes and talk about student and staff safety. Today, we know more about this virus than we did 10, 5, 2 months ago. We know more about how this virus is transmitted, what safety measures prevent spread, and what is the level of community spread where students and staff could safely return to school. We're also learning from numerous schools across our state and across the country that have safely been instructing students in in-person instruction, some for many months. The Ready Schools Safe Learners guidance continues to be based on scientific research and in consultation with health experts. And in this guidance, there are over 150 mandatory state requirements in the areas of health protocols, facilities and school operations, and responding to an outbreak. That school districts must document and have operational before students could return to in-person instruction. And changes to those requirements continue to be based on research as our scientists and epidemiologists continue to learn more about the virus. So I'm sharing this information with you to demonstrate that there is strong evidence to support the safe return to school for our youngest learners and staff, specifically with those required health metrics and safety protocols in Ready School Safe Learners in place. That's masking and screening, cohorting, physical distancing, and disinfecting. And we also need to be meeting the required health metrics for returning to in-person instruction. Schools and staff are not known to be spreader events for the coronavirus. In a meeting earlier this week with Clackamas County's public health officer, she supports the reopening of schools once the health metrics are met and the required safety protocols are strictly followed. The state is also working to get schools rapid testing kits that could be utilized to test students and staff that are demonstrating virus symptoms through that daily screening process when students and staff enter the school. And finally, superintendents and educators across the state are advocating for the vaccine opportunity for all pre-K through 12th grade employees as soon as possible. Multiple meetings have occurred in the past 2 weeks with state health officials and healthcare providers, and more are scheduled in the coming days and weeks. And what we understand today is that pre-K-12 employees are next in line to begin receiving that vaccination. And I remain hopeful that these vaccinations can begin soon, and I will direct school resources in whatever way necessary to facilitate this happening. Therefore, the board may want to discuss the previous referenced recommendations and tying those recommendations to K-12 employee vaccine availability. And I will conclude by my final statement, that is, if the district does not have the required health protocols in place and/or Clackamas County is not meeting those advisory metrics for returning to in-person instruction, I will not recommend the district shift to either the elementary hybrid model or limited in-person instruction. Again, and until it is safe to do so and those metrics and protocols are in place. So I want to thank all those that are joining us tonight. That concludes my opening comments, and we're now open for questions and board discussion. Thank you, board.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Housekeeping items. Sandra, I just need to know if you're paying attention to the waiting room or if someone is. I don't want someone to accidentally do something that we are not prepared for.
We have someone waiting in the waiting room that's going to be speaking in community requests. So we sent her a message that she'll be let in later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarity. All right, everyone, we're going to have some discussion here. I just want to reiterate what this time is for. We have a board meeting set for 6:30, just to be clear on where our timing is. But this time is to ask Matt questions about his presentation, the recommendations that he has provided, as well as a possibility of tying those recommendations to the vaccination availability. So we'll do a round robin. I saw your hand up first, Director Schradel, so go ahead and start, and then I'll call.
Well, thank you. First, I want to, I need to say thank you to Superintendent Underback and all staff. So the public understands, last summer, there was thousands of changes, recommendations, and those type of things have been happening all year long. And the staff to have a position that is different than all these new things that they're bringing and being forced to have to address to keep our community safe. So I want to say thank you for all that work. Do you have a couple questions from the presentation? Vintage, the vintage of data matters to me. What is the current metrics from the governor for schools to reopen? Is it 100 per 100,000, under a certain percentage for so much time? Would you please refresh my memory on that?
I would be happy to. Currently, the general metrics for returning to in-person instruction, there is a 4-level system. When cases are greater than 200 per 100,000 residents in the county, school districts should be in distance learning. Schools can begin transition between 100 and 200, and that transition can go from on-site to distance learning, or distance learning, to back to on-site. But I think that what you're specifically asking is when the rates are between 50 and 100, school districts are allowed to have on-site instruction at the elementary level. When you get below 50, you can look at middle school and high school.
And that will play into kind of, my thoughts. What am I thinking? Where am I at? I don't want to just say whatever the governor's new numbers will be on the 19th or the 5th of next month. We are all watching what is taking place in other places around the United States and the world, and our numbers are low. So we should be thinking we're lucky to have low numbers, but the risk is real. I'd like to see that we do set a number and state what it is that this board feels that the risk to community is low enough that we can return to starting the process, such as saying it must be a 100 to 100,000. And the other thing that seems so very compelling and intelligent to do is to say that we must have staff, not just teachers, all staff of North Clackamas vaccinated, not just with the first shot, but actually finish the second shot and the full completion of the process. I'm gonna take I surrender some time back to the chair. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you for that. What I'm hearing you say, Director Strado, is that you're interested in us connecting the recommendations to the vaccination, correct?
I am. I mean, I'd like to say, at this time, if I'm hearing, 100 per 100,000, if that's what the number is, I want to say that that is our number. And if the number changed to be 1,000 is fine with tomorrow, we would need to get back together to say, are we okay with 1,000 being the new recommendation?
Mhm.
And it's forced upon us versus we do have a decision to set our numbers as long as we're not being reckless.
Right, cool.
And the other one was putting in kind of the thought out on the floor to say staff needs to be vaccinated.
Okay. Thank you. Director Way.
Thank you, Chair Ford. I do have a couple of just clarifying questions and comments to the superintendent, but I also want to, I guess, second or echo what Director Schroedel said in terms of vaccination for not just our teaching staff, but for all staff. And, I think that if we really want to continue to say that we care about equity, care about, caring for others in this pandemic. I think the folks that are basically the caregivers of our kids when we're not working should be able to get the public health resources. So just want to echo that. Along those lines, I actually have a question around the transportation and particularly bus drivers and testing, and I guess also vaccine plan for folks. So Matt, you said something you had said that if we do the elementary hybrid model first with K through 1, how would that look like with transportation? Would we be offering transportation again, or can you just explain how that would work?
Yeah. So yes, we will provide transportation. In our December survey to parents, we asked questions regarding transportation. How many students? So I think we have a good sense of how many students would take district transportation, how many parents are going to drive themselves, how many students are in that walking zone. And so there are in the Ready School Safe Learners. There is quite a large number of requirements as well as recommendations for how we safely get students to and from school. And in this hybrid model, we're going to take that elementary, kindergarten, and first grade class. We're going to, basically cut it in half. And so, half will come at one time and half will come at another time. So we should have relatively small numbers of students on those buses that will allow for physical distancing. I mean, some of the recommendations obviously are when the bus is, in operation, the windows are down. And so you're continuing to get that ventilation and fresh air in there. Drivers, there's guidance around drivers and what they're required, the PPE that they're required to have. And then you also reference testing, and I referenced that in my comments. We do believe that the state is in the process here, I would assume within the next couple of weeks, of providing every school in the state with rapid testing for the virus. And what that would allow schools to do, I think the research and the models are out there in other places, is as staff does that visual screening on students when they come into the building, it's kind of easy to tell when somebody doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look well. And then provide that student an opportunity and that family an opportunity for a rapid test right there. And then depending upon the results of that rapid test, right, we can then give feedback to those parents that student tested positive, student didn't test positive, and have protocols in place, depending on the results of those tests. So those rapid tests have proven as an effective tool of helping to reduce the virus from entering the school settings.
And does that also include temperature checks? I know that there's been other districts in other places that are doing temperature checks.
Yeah, I think
as well.
we certainly can do. Currently, there's not a plan to do temperature checks for every student that's entering the building. But again, when you do that screen right at the beginning, and you're looking at a child who may not, maybe doesn't look as they normally do, there will be a dedicated room where students can go do that rapid test, potentially get their temperature, taken at that place. Yes.
Great. I just have two more questions. The next question is around ESL students in particular, and for families who, English may not be their primary language. So I know that not just myself, but many other board members have sort of brought up this population, and that, even before the pandemic, they have been falling behind. And so can you just sort of explain, with COVID also disproportionately impacting, many of the communities that you named earlier, how will we hopefully strive to close that gap when it comes to COVID communication or COVID testing, or even the rapid kits? I'm just worried that if we're testing a child and, we have to give information back to their household, and if communication's a barrier, I'm just concerned as to how we'll solve that.
Yeah, I heard a couple of questions in there. The first is that as we bring back grade levels in the hybrid model, we would also bring back the specialized services. So any students who receive English language support, and any students who receive special education services at that grade level, they would have those available to them on site. We have instructional assistants at each of our schools that have language skills in the largest population of second language in that school. And so they're a resource to reach out to families to make those phone calls. But we also contract with a translating service where we can get on the phone with the translating service and do a through a phone call with families in almost every single language in the school district. So it is really critical for us that we don't rely on other students. We do rely on professional translators and trained translators to deliver that information. And also, for the community too, the guidance regarding these rapid testing kits are going to require I believe they're going to require parent permission to do that, as you can imagine. And I also, there's and what I've been told is that they're also the student does the test themselves, so they're does not involve that close interaction with a staff member. That we're able to do that at self-administered test.
Great. Sorry, and just my last question is again around another population that we serve, which is our students and youth. And someone who just an esteemed community person last week said, what about young people, and how are we engaging young people and youth voices, especially because a lot of them are the stigma of COVID, but it could also be bullying, right? Mental health during sort of an online environment. And so I heard you mention that we're going to continue to do community engagement and outreach, and there's, several different district groups, which is great. But I didn't hear you say, youth or youth leadership or youth council. So will there be a plan for that?
Yeah, pre-pandemic, we did have a superintendent's advisory group that I would meet with on a regular basis, and obviously the pandemic has shifted that. We're just getting those restarted right now, and doing that through online opportunities for kids. The other piece that I would suggest and remind the community and the board is, as we a model of our comprehensive distance learning delivery model are those community building activities on Wednesdays. And so we have taken our student body, all 17,000 of them, and put them into smaller groups where our educators are meeting with them on a regular basis on those Wednesdays to do these kind of check-ins, to have conversations with them. Sometimes it's about academics, but a lot of it is just how are you doing? How are you navigating, right? When they're, when we had the event at the Capitol last week, right? Check in with kids. How are you doing? How are you processing that? And so that is a weekly tool that is available to each of our students.
Thank you. I yield my time. Thank you, Chair Ford. That was a lot of questions, but thank you.
Thank you. Director McVeigh.
Thank you.
Sí.
Hey,
Tengo dos.
hey, Matt.
We had somebody just
Oh,
jump in here,
sorry.
so just give us a second. We'll see if we can. I think we're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, good.
Are we okay?
Ed, Director McVeigh.
Mi pregunta, perdón.
No, okay. So what's going? So let me just say this, everyone. As a listener, this is not the time for you to ask questions. You must listen at this time. This is only a time for the directors to ask questions. So I'm going to ask for all non-directors to keep themselves on mute. And if you are in the translation mode, you have to keep yourself in your language of choice. But this is not a time to ask questions. And for directors, just a time check at 6:17. So be aware of the time, please. Director McVeigh.
Sure, great. I just have two questions. I just want to thank Matt and team for putting this presentation together. And you're absolutely right. There's no one that's going to be, it's not a happy time when it comes to this topic. So first question, in the statistics, I didn't see, and I don't recollect the survey, was there any option for families to say if they wanted full-time school, not any hybrid model or not any CDL? Because it was 99% in your slide.
Yeah, the other percent was staying in the virtual online program. So we did not offer families the opportunity for full day school because we cannot offer a full day program currently. Simply we can't meet the cohort sizes and the physical distancing requirements.
That's why I thought that equaled almost 100%. Some families probably would have chose that, but it's not an option for us right now. And then do we have any information, and just, it doesn't have to be answered today, or can we get information? Do we have any stats on any percentage of any neglect or any harm that's being happened during this time? Has the county provided us with any data?
I've not seen any data except for the fact, we referenced this in the fall, that child abuse reports are down significantly across the state. Historically, educators are the ones who, interact with students for a large part of their awake day and are the ones who are identifying potential abuse, and that, we're not in that physical space with them. So while child abuse reporting hasn't been eliminated across the state, what we are seeing is a decrease in this number of those reports.
Thank you. That was it for me.
Thank you, Director McVeigh. Director Benaloga.
Yes, thank you, Director Chair Ford. Thank you again, Superintendent, for the presentation and for all of the work that is going into rebuilding and building our education system. I know it's a difficult task, and we all appreciate the tireless hours that you and your team are putting into putting together the education for our children. I do just have a couple of questions. You had talked about that 2 weeks after we successfully have K1, the K2 and 3 could begin. Would that literally be after 2 weeks? Would there be 2 weeks and then the decision to open the K2, 3? What are you thinking there?
What I'm thinking is that we're probably going to need some flexibility. And so that is why I use the word approximately 2 weeks.
Okay.
I mean, we don't know until we get into this. You know, we spent, you know, thousands of hours planning, and we're really good at that. But until you get the kids on site and the teachers on site, and you're going to monitor and adjust those 2 weeks. I think the other piece too is that in school districts that have opened across the country, they have struggled to expand often beyond, you know, K-3, because they don't have the staff. Because we are going to have situations in which we're going to have to quarantine and isolate staff, because maybe a student or a staff member was exposed outside in, you know, the community, and they've unknowingly come into the school site and found out that they were then exposed. That requires us to quarantine and isolate staff. And so that means you need other staff to come in and fill those roles. And if all of your staff is back, and you now have more opportunity for, you know, for quarantining, it has become a challenge for school districts across the country to open school-wide with the strict metrics that are in place in Oregon. And, you know, and at the same time, we want those strict metrics because it's keeping people safe.
Right, correct. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
That did, exactly. I want to make sure that we're very clear when we think we're going to be able to roll out additional. I also have a question, and we've touched on this a little bit. So we do anticipate that there may be a change to the metrics, but do you anticipate, we don't anticipate there's going to be a change to the cohorting requirement, correct?
Yeah, so we know that on the 19th, we believe we're going to receive some updated guidance on the metrics. And that metric number that we keep talking about, right, is the number of cases per 100,000 residents. And why that number is important is because when a county is over that number, there is the risk of that spread coming into the school district. When the county is under that number, right, health experts have said it's safe to have schools open because there's not the rapid spread in the community, right? So that's why that health number is important. There has been talk at the state level, and both at the ODE and the Oregon Health Authority, that they may revisit that number and put out a new metric in the coming days. And again, as I referenced, that's going to be based on science. It's going to be based upon, we know more about the virus every day. We're learning more. We're studying school districts and states that have opened, and, you know, where infections have happened and where they haven't happened, and they're looking at that data. What we don't anticipate, and you referenced this, is those requirements around cohorting, physical distancing, masking. We don't anticipate those changing.
All right, thank you so much. And I see that we are very tight on time, so I will yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Perez.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one question, Superintendent, and thank you and your team for this wonderful presentation. I know that in my 30+ years working in the medical arena, I know that usually December through February, that's the time for the common flu to peak. So we have yet to experience December through February for coronavirus flu. And our numbers are now going up. So my question is, how soon has there been a hint of or any kind of insight or anything to relate to you as far as when vaccines would be available for teachers and staff, admin, bus drivers, everybody?
I'll address your first comment because it's a nice setup, and I think the board and the community needs to hear this. I think the date of February 16th that is referenced in those recommendations is not based on the governor's desire to get folks back to school on the 15th. February. That number is based upon falling at the end of an academic quarter for us in a semester where we're going to literally hundreds and hundreds of students are going to shift teachers if and when we make this shift to a hybrid model. And we want to do that right at a grade point if we can. That being said, if you were to ask me today, are we going to come back on the 15th? Based upon what I'm hearing today on January 14th, there is a surge coming. And I would be surprised if we hit the new metric in the month of, in February, even if it's a new metric. Just based on the models that I'm seeing, a most recent model earlier this week out of OHSU right here in Portland, showing a potential for a pretty dramatic increase.
Yeah.
So that being said, while that is not good news by any stretch, there is the potential for some positive news coming out with the vaccines. And I think I will definitely, hopefully have more information next week. And definitely by our next board meeting regarding vaccine availability. But I remain hopeful, particularly since there was the release yesterday of those 100 million doses, that we should be able hopefully to get vaccines into the arms of our employees soon. But more by the time we meet again for sure. I think we'll have some details.
Thank you, Superintendent. And I echo what the other directors said, Director Schradel, Director Wade, and some of the others in that. I'd like to definitely connect the recommendations to the vaccine for every employee in our district.
Thank you, Director Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Ford, and thank you, Superintendent and staff, for all of your hard work. And the care for our community comes across too with your presentation. And that's the bottom line, that we can't have school with people sick. We can't do school without our teachers. We all need to work together. I thought your message was perfect and dealt with that very well. Just a couple questions about staffing though is, who would do all of that rapid testing? We only have 8.1 FTE nurse, 9 nurses. Who would do some of the other things, the temperature checks?
Yeah. So I have not received any written guidance yet on that rapid testing. And so I honestly cannot answer that question until I see what the guidance and the requirements are going to be. I haven't even seen what the test looks like yet and how long it takes.
Sure.
So, but I will share with you, that is a concern that all superintendents share, is, to the degree that with which those are going to be required, the potential for needing some additional staffing is certainly there. That is also something that could slow down the rollout of of an in-person model, is getting staff in place that could support that, depending on just how big of a lift that testing is going to be.
Then my only other concern is we're getting a lot of input about hybrid that maybe not everybody understands. That you explained it well, but that the students will come back 2 days and then they will be home 3 days. They still will have that Wednesday available for conferences and questions with teachers, but the other 2 days, they are independent learning, correct?
Yes, under the design of the current model, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure that came across. I also am in favor of tying this recommendation to a vaccine for our staff. And we all need to lobby for vaccines and getting them as soon as we can, in the hands of our districts and our teachers. Thank you, Chair Ford.
Thank you to all of the directors. Thank you to you, Superintendent, and to the staff for this excellent presentation. At this time, I just want to make a couple comments and then I'll check in with everyone to see where we're at in terms of discussion and action. So I want to be clear that I think this is extremely difficult times for everyone. I think the relativity of difficulty is not one that any of us can measure or make judgment on. And I'm not here to do that. And I don't think any of the directors want to do that. But I do think that there's something very poignant that we all should pay attention to. We've been in this 10 months. And I love analogies, and a 10-month baby is never expected to start running. And I feel like some of the objectives that are being asked and also pushed on school districts are taking a 10-month baby and trying to make them talk, run, and make political decisions. And I caution us as humans in a community in rushing children into doing something that may be unfair to them and unrealistic requests. In addition to that, I caution families and community from comparing what we do to other districts, because just like raising children, comparing your child to someone else's version of raising is never helpful. So in this instance, we have a lot to consider, directors, and we have a lot to talk about. It sounds like we came up with some things that are a kind of thread line, the vaccinations being connected to the recommendations that our superintendent has presented to us. Do we have any feeling here in terms of an action? Do we have any feelings about continued discussion? Where are we at? Director Strado?
I only got through like 10% of my questions, and the more I heard from other fellow board members, it sparks additional questions. I would ask, or I'm just one board member, but I'd ask if we could at least have another work session before we actually do. We need more. I need more.
Anyone else have a comment? So I saw a head nod. Oh, Superintendent, what do you have to say?
Yeah, and again, from the timeline perspective, just continue to remind the board, obviously no decisions being made tonight. We'll have new guidance come out on Tuesday, and I'll certainly communicate that to you and to our staff and our community, what those changes are going to be. We're currently scheduled, and I'll have more information on vaccine availability next week, which I've heard is a desire to tie that into the recommendations as we move forward. We're next scheduled for the 25th. We'll know, I think, probably that by that point where we are headed as a state and a county with regards to the increase in potential rates of infection that folks are predicting. And so that's kind of the timeline on where we're at. Is I think you're currently scheduled for 2 weeks from now to either continue this conversation or to potentially, take some action on some recommendations.
Great. So I saw head nods when Director Schrader brought up continued conversation. So we will work towards another work session to get that done. And for the community listening, I understand that when you don't have closure, it is very difficult. It does not feel settling. But know that I hope you're grounded in the thought that we are very committed to making a sound decision, an informed decision. And so sometimes that takes time. So I hope you can find some peace in knowing that we're not trying to make a rapid decision just to make a decision. We want to make a safe decision for our community as a whole. So if nothing else, I'd like us to adjourn the work session. I'll give you guys, let's go ahead and come back at 6:40, give you guys a little break and get everybody set up in here. So 6:40, we will begin our board meeting. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I will continue the stream so I don't have to restart it, but I will turn off the recording for right now.
Great. So the stream is going. Directors, I ask that you turn your cameras off at 6:39. You may want to turn it back on just so that no one catches you making crazy faces.
And Alex, if you want to get those questions from the parent and forward those to me, we'd be happy to get them a response. Thank you.
Oh,
that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I gotta run to the restroom.
At 6:40, Sandra, are we ready to record? We are.
Okay, we're recording.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well, welcome back. We are now in our open session of our board meeting. It is January 14th, 2021, 6:40. We're here with North Clackamas School Board. I first want to say Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us today to continue to make some listening moments regarding our children and the next steps in our journey here during this pandemic. Starting us off as usual, we will start with our native land acknowledgement with our Vice Chair. Director Bauer, are you ready?
Yes. Thank you, Chair Ford. We acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we call the North Clackamas School District. Rests on the traditional and indigenous lands and village sites of the native peoples of the Kalapuya, Chinook, Molalla, and Clackamas. We take this opportunity to offer gratitude for the ability to learn, work, and be a community on this land. We offer thanks to the original caretakers of this region. We recognize the historic policies of colonization, genocide, relocation, and assimilation that affected Indigenous and Native families from past and present, and that will affect those in the future, and honor the resilience and revitalization of our Indigenous and Native communities. We pay our respect to the elders, both past and present, who have been the stewards of this land throughout the generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that moment of acknowledgement. We'll start off with our minutes. We have December 10th, 2020 regular board minutes that we need to take action on and vote on. I'll open the floor. Do I hear a motion?
Move approval of December 10th, 2020 minutes.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second, Director Perez.
Excellent. Properly moved and seconded. I'm going to go ahead and say, is there anyone that is a nay? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and say that we unanimously passed that. December 16, 2020 special executive session board meeting minutes. Open the floor.
Bauer, move approval of December 16th special executive session board meeting.
Excellent. Second.
McVeigh, second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Again, just for the sake of time, is there anyone who is a nay? Excellent. Motion to approve those minutes. Approve the minutes. We're moving forward. Consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda: employment changes, policy revisions, new course proposals. All have been sent to all directors at this time. Floor is open for a motion.
Motion.
Director Way.
Second, Perez.
Okay. I need a proper motion though. So Director Way, what is your?
Oh, yes. A motion to approve employment changes.
Second.
Okay, just for clarity, there's 3 things on consent agenda: employment changes, policy revision, and new course proposals. Are you asking that we vote on them separately or together?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. On employment consent agenda, employment changes, policy revisions, and new course proposals.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Properly moved and second. Any discussion needed on those 3 items? Seeing none. Any nays? Excellent. Okay. Well, we will go ahead and approve the consent agenda unanimously by the directors. Moving into our next agenda item, which is community requests. How many community requests do we have?
In addition to several written responses that were submitted, we have 7 people in attendance tonight that would like to speak, Chair.
Give me 1 second, please. Great. So we have 7 speakers and how many written?
I believe as of this afternoon, we had 26 written responses.
Okay, we're not reading those. Those have all been sent to the directors, or are we reading them out loud?
No, those have been sent to you.
Okay, perfect. And then the order of the community requests, do we have an order?
Yes, as in your board packet, and I'm prepared to call each one if you like.
Okay, perfect. If you can call each one, that would be great. For those speaking, before you begin, you have 3 minutes. And the 3 minutes, I will provide you a 2-minute warning with this yellow sheet of paper, and then a 1-minute warning at this red sheet of paper. I will cut you off. And it's not because I don't absolutely adore you. It's because if you go beyond 3 minutes, we will be beyond 21 minutes. And we have lots of things that we have to get to by the rules of our governance. And so I will have to cut you off at the end of the 3 minutes. All right, let's begin.
All right, first up is Kathleen Johnson. Kathleen, go ahead and unmute your mic and you may begin.
Good evening. My name's Kathy Johnson, and I'm here once again to discuss the school boundary appeal. This involves the area south of Clackamas River and the community's desire to remain at Duncan and its feeder schools. And I'm hoping this is the last time that I'm addressing everyone because you're getting sick of seeing my face. This topic may seem very small in relation to everything going on right now, but it's been very dear to my heart, and I know to the majority of this community. And so I wanted to just speak one more time tonight. I am asking for the appeal to be accepted on the facts that were discussed at the last board meeting, and in particular, the school capacity and the 70% community involvement and support of this appeal. I do want to address the concern that was brought up at the last meeting regarding the question if the community has had enough time to give feedback, adequate feedback. And I would say that the community has had ample opportunity in the last 2.5 years to give feedback on this topic. And you have heard our hearts. And, I feel like I've run a lot of marathons in the last years, and this one has been very long, and I would love to get to the finish line. So I am asking tonight for you to approve this appeal, and that you can keep the area south of Clackamas River at Burn Duncan and its feeder schools, and keep these kids in the most rural school system. It's important to us. And again, I appreciate your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back again. And we never get tired of people, by the way. I just want to make that publicly known. Who's next on our list?
Carrie Patlin, go ahead and unmute your mic and you may begin.
Hi, thanks for letting me talk today. I would like to discuss being able to have community groups use facilities at the schools for sports and other activities. I represent a local soccer club as a parent and as a board member of that club. Thousands of kids use the school district fields every year for different sports, soccer, baseball, community football. Kids need sports. Kids need to play sports, recreational sports, competitive sports. It's very important for these kids to be able to get outside and be with their peers, be with their friends, be with other people. And I know it's hard right now on everybody with COVID and everything. I have a little speech and I just went off of it. Kids need sports to keep them active. Students have a lot more screen time right now with distance learning. Students need to get away from the computer and be active. Recreational sports allow kids to have fun, learn a sport without the stress of competition. Competitive sports allow kids to grow with a team and reach higher goals, either with their sport and life. Athletics and sports will help our kids be active during COVID by giving them an hour or two, 3 days a week to be outside. Air. Kids cannot be sedentary right now. They need to be active. in order to create active adults with healthy futures and healthy lifestyles. Being active helps their immune system stay strong. Being active will also emphasize how important a healthy lifestyle is. Athletics and sports allow kids to learn how to communicate with adults and peers. Soccer has run really well here in Oregon. My daughter plays competitive soccer in Lake Oswego, and they have done really good. No COVID outbreaks. The sports have been really great. We've been using masks. Sanitation has been wonderful. And I really just want to get back out on the field coaching kids. I miss that so much. And we need that. Kids need that. Grown-ups need that. Grown-ups need a little bit of time away from their kids. And I think that this will help them too. Not just the kids, but the grown-ups too. I appreciate the time tonight and being able to speak with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jesse Newell. Jesse, go ahead and unmute your mic. Jesse, I can see a person in the room called Jesse, but if you can hear me, go ahead and unmute your mic. Okay, we'll move on to Melinda Ryan. Jesse, I'll come back to you at the end in case you're struggling with computers tonight. Melinda?
Good evening, everyone. In the short week and a half that we've been back to school since winter break, your North Clackamas Education Association leadership has heard loud and clear from the teachers in the district, our membership, their feelings regarding returning to school in a hybrid model and how that relates to the availability of the vaccine. And as a result, and in response to feedback from our membership, we drew our executive team together and we crafted a statement that we then sent out to our approximately 1,000 members to review. And then it was voted upon and approved unanimously by our legislative council just this week. And I'd like to share NCEA's statement to the board this evening. On December 23rd, Governor Brown changed the metrics that have served as the cue for when schools may safely reopen from mandatory to advisory. We, the North Clackamas Education Association, want nothing more than to be back in person with our students. We know schools function best when educators and students are together. We also know it is not yet safe for students or staff to return. Vaccines are being distributed and given to those who deserve it most, our first responders, our healthcare workers, and those who live and work in nursing homes. School employees are next up in line for vaccination. However, after months of tireless work to create and successfully implement comprehensive distance learning, and with administration of the vaccine only weeks away, now is not the time to return to in-person instruction. We call on the North Clackamas School Board to keep students, families, and employees safe by continuing comprehensive distance learning until both doses of the vaccine are administered to each employee who is able to be vaccinated. We also call on the North Clackamas School Board to work with the local health authority to provide vaccination clinics for staff on site within the district. Until all on-site school staff are fully vaccinated for the safety of all involved, we do not support returning to in-person instruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Next, we have Deborah Barnes. Deb, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Good evening, Chair Ford, members of the board. I do appreciate the difficult situation you are in, dealing with everything as you weigh the needs and the concerns of such a diverse set of opinions regarding the educational delivery system for our students. It is a difficult position, and I have appreciated your time and the energy making the best decisions despite the unknowns. I respectfully request that you consider waiting to bring us back for in-person instruction as the reported cases in the Tri-County area continue to increase. I know the majority of our NCEA members, as you've just heard, including those at Sabin Schellenberg, believe it is important to make sure all educators receive the vaccinations, all of them, needed to help us fend off the spread of the virus before we return to our sites. On a personal level, I have seen the majority of my students overcome diversity in the learning environment. I've seen students with challenges in class now speak up, showing they have a voice finally in class discussions. I watch students learn problem-solving techniques with their capstone project, live election night coverage through Google. I've been able to work with parents to get their teens up and in class to complete assignments. That's one of our biggest struggles. The CDL may not be the perfect solution for all, but it has brought a sense of normalcy for many, knowing they can accomplish great things. Changing how we deliver instruction now would cause angst and that sense of normalcy where we are nearly halfway through the school year. I urge you to stay the course with CDL and to avoid any possible danger to our students and staff. And I'm speaking on behalf of being a building rep for Sabin-Schellenberg this year. Thank you so much for your help.
Next up is John Simonson. John, go ahead and unmute your mic.
Okay, doesn't look like my video is working. Why am I angry all the time? That's the question my son asked me in a quiet moment the other day. He is a well-balanced, friendly adolescent that plays sports and gets A grades in his classes. Director Bauer has met him and they spoke for a good amount of time when he interviewed her for one of his Boy Scout merit badges. As for the answer to this question, yes, he is a teenager, and yes, the emotions brought on by physical changes as he matures into an adult are part of the answer. But the truth is, we have isolated our children into the prison of their bedrooms in some vain attempt to shield them from harm. This short-sighted action is actually causing our children irreparable long-term harm. Increased education causes increased life expectancy. In a peer-reviewed study in the Journal of the American Medical Association, they estimate that the decision to close U.S. primary schools in the early months of 2020 may be associated with a decrease in the life expectancy for U.S. children. This decision analytical model found that missed instruction during 2020 could be associated with an estimated 13.8 million years of life lost based on data from US studies and an estimated 0.8 million years of life lost based on European studies. This loss was estimated to be greater than what had been observed if leaving the primary schools open had led to an expansion of the first wave of the pandemic. Another peer-reviewed study in the Journal of the American Academy of Pediatrics found in the first 9 weeks of in-person instruction in North Carolina schools, we found extremely limited within-school secondary transmission of SARS-CoV-2. The district's lawyers worry that even though the governor's metrics are advisory, they might be used against the district in a lawsuit. What they fail to consider is the lawsuit that might occur if someone's child takes their life and blames isolation as the reason. We take risks every day and we weigh these risks against the benefits and what factors we can use to mitigate those risks. In the entire US, from January 1st, 2020 through January 9th, 2021, 55 children aged 5 to 14 have died from COVID. However, in that same group and the same time, 5,279 have died from other causes. Yes, those 55 deaths are tragic, but take those 55 deaths and multiply them by another 70 years, you end up with 3,850 years of life loss. This is a far cry from the estimated 13.8 million years of estimated years of life lost from closing schools. Why as a parent, and why am I as a parent angry? Because keeping our schools closed is harming my daughter and my son. We need to open the schools now. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next up are Nicole and Jason Nix. Nicole or Jason, are you here?
Sorry, I don't know why my husband's name is on there, but it's just me tonight. Okay, good evening, board. I'm speaking to you tonight as a parent and an employee. First and foremost, I want to thank you for always looking at every angle when decisions are being made for our children and staff. Through the past few years, you have given us confident and thoughtful decisions that are not always easy to make, but I know you have put your heart and soul into every decision, even if it's unpopular. That being said, this upcoming decision you have to make regarding returning to school is a big one. As you work through and come to a decision, there are some thoughts I want you to consider. First, our children have struggled through not only learning how to use a computer, how to navigate an online classroom, but most importantly, building a relationship with their teacher through a computer screen. This is no easy task. Our teachers have worked so hard to connect and learn each of their students with less time together and time that is not in person. When the time is right for them to return to school, they must stay with their current teacher until the end of the school year. Changing teachers at this late in the year would set them back in their learning. Change is not easy. They will already struggle with the changes through going to school in a building with all new rules that come with in-person learning during a pandemic. They will be seeing their friends but not being able to play like they normally would. Adding a change in teacher is detrimental to their learning experience. Second, all staff that are able and willing should be given the opportunity to receive both doses of the vaccine prior to returning to the school building. And I was listening on the work session tonight, and I really appreciate that you all feel that same way. This would also help prevent last-minute school closures due to a COVID-19 outbreak. And it would relieve some pressure from families feeling stress if they have to close the school. Lastly, with students potentially returning to school 2 days a week, what are the plans for the other 3 days? Will you offer care for those who will have to return to work, keeping them within their same cohorts? As a parent of a third grader, her going to school for 2 days and the expectation of my schedule being 5 days in district is stressful. I'm not the only one with this dilemma. In fact, those parents with less flexibility in their work or those working 2 to 3 jobs will struggle finding part-time care as well. I understand it's a family responsibility, but I want you to feel the stress as this late change will bring to families. Parents will be scrambling to find care in an already scarce daycare shortage in our area. Thank you for all you do as our school board, and I urge you to continue to take time to make this decision, weigh out all the considerations, and do what is best for our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. One more round for Jesse Newell. Is Jesse joining us this evening? Okay, Chair, I think it's going back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone who has presented during our community request. We are elected as your voice, and so it's very important that you come and you share your voice, whether it's here or through email or whatever way is most comfortable for you. Moving to our next agenda item, which is our NCEA featured educator. I don't know who's presenting to us. So who do we have?
Oh, it's always me. Here I am.
How are you doing today?
I'm all right, Libra. It's nice to see you, Director Ford. Nice to see you. And I believe our featured educator is also here. Katie Ray is here, I believe, somewhere. There she is. Hi, Katie. When the calendar turned to January and brought with it even more grief and devastation, I know a lot of folks thought 2020 was done, and woohoo, that didn't happen. I was reminded of the quote from Mr. Rogers that we see reposted on Facebook pages and Instagram stories during difficult times. In 1986, he wrote, "There was something my mother said that I've always remembered. Always look for the helpers. There is always someone who is trying to help." When deciding on the theme for this month, Melinda and I looked to the helpers. We know there are educators all over the district who are shining their light and caring for our students and families beyond their Google classrooms. Among those helpers, Katie Ray stands out as someone who has done so much for North Clackamas students, families, and staff, not just this year, but over the course of her 6 years, serving as the McKinney-Vento liaison for the district. Katie leads a team of 4 staff overseeing the homeless services to families and students, the food pantry, the clothes closet, school supply distribution, hygiene closet, and more. According to her supervisor, NCSD Social Services Director Michael Rawls, Katie has worked to create sustainable systems at the Wichita Center. She has helped numerous families navigate and access needed services, including the ever-changing resources available to families who are undocumented. Most recently, Katie proposed a program for helping families with housing and utility assistance. Using only donated funds, the family support team has used over $25,000 to assist over 70 North Clackamas families so they may continue living in their homes and avoid having utilities shut off. Since March 13th of last year, the Family Support Food Pantry has provided food to 3,837 households, 17,177 individuals, and accepted over 100,000 pounds of food, in addition to the food obtained from the Oregon Food Bank. Katie is a champion for our North Clackamas school children and families in need. She is a defender of social justice, and we are lucky to have her as part of the North Clackamas family. Janelle Menzia Murphy, school counselor at South Llewellyn Elementary, adds, the Family Support Center is a critical social services hub for our community, but it's never been as crucial as it has during the global pandemic. Katie's expertise is particularly important as families rely on the center for food, clothing, hygiene supplies, resource information, and assistance. Katie's calm and warm demeanor is particularly reassuring to families dealing with the Herculean task of attempting to meet basic needs for their families. As a counselor, I am appreciative of her willingness to answer questions, follow up with concerns, troubleshoot situations, and go above and beyond to connect with students and families throughout the district. Annie Schlegel, behavior interventionist at Lot Whitcomb, notes, Katie is able to connect with and support our most vulnerable youth and families. She treats everyone with respect and dignity, recognizes families' strengths and resilience. Families never feel judged when they get assistance through Katie, and they always tell us she is super supportive and kind. She is creative in her coordination of the food pantry and providing support for all North Clackamas students. This has been crucial for the stability of families in our district. We are grateful for her. And finally, Lori Richardson, family liaison for North Clackamas, writes, Katie is amazing. She works tirelessly to help our most vulnerable families. She creates a welcoming atmosphere for all she serves. She has always been available to me to problem solve and find solutions for difficult situations. I can't say enough wonderful things. She is a gem. It is with great pleasure that NCEA honors Katie Ray as our Educator of the Month for January. She is a true light in the dark for many people. And Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you for you to make your comments.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Andrea. That was incredibly kind and very thorough. So I really appreciate the introduction. It's nice to see everyone. I know it's a little different format than what I'm used to, but happy to see you all. And I just want to quickly thank everyone. It was really unexpected, and I'm so grateful to be recognized for the work that we've been doing this year. I know many of you, especially the board and Superintendent Utterbeck, have been super supportive of the work that we've done. And I've seen many of you dropping off donations over the past several months. And it really means a lot to us to have that kind of support. And as Andrea said, we have kept our food service going, and we're still working to connect with families and to get the word out about our housing and utility assistance fund. This year, we're actually serving about 3 times as many families in our food pantry as what we typically serve in a typical year. And I don't think I need to really explain to anyone here how challenging and difficult it has been to just get through the year and keep things going the way that we're used to. So I'm just really proud of what we've been able to do as a team, and really thankful again for the support of the district, and having great teammates by my side, and also my supervisor, Michael. Thank you for all the support as well.
Amazing, amazing. Always good to hear good news and good work. So thank you for that presentation. Director Way, any comments or statements?
I just look forward to this presentation from NCEA every time. So Andrea, thank you for just recognizing such amazing people in our district. And Katie, thank you just so much for being a stable force in our district. I heard the word stability in the remarks given multiple times. And so thank you for just being a stable relationship builder, resource, light for students in our district. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Perez.
Yeah, Katie, kudos to you and all your team. And I heard something in the that was said that one of your colleagues shared, that when you families always say how much when you go to help them out, they don't feel judged. And I think that's huge because we all have stuff that we go through certain times in our lives, and to treat everyone with respect and dignity. I thank you. That's still is one of those intangibles that it's nice to hear about that. And thank you for all you do. And one quick question for you, if I may. You have clothing, food pantry, dental, tons of assistance. So is there anything, if you could have something to help our community, what's one more thing that you would add on to that list of things you already provide and do?
As something that we've been talking about a lot as a team, and we've been able to kind of piece together so far this year, just with other contacts throughout the district, is delivering grocery items, because we do give, that's what we give out at Wichita is food boxes with pantry items and dairy and meat products. So we would like to have a more robust way of doing that. What we've got now is kind of when someone's available, they're able to drive to a family's house, and we've been able to meet the needs so far, but it would be nice to be able to have that be a little more widely available and reliable.
Like a grocery deliverer.
Yeah,
So-
we do. I think we have a number of families who are able to get to Wichita, but as you all know, we're a huge geographic district, and there's many, barriers to people being able to drive and pick up their groceries. And we have staff members who do pick up for families in their schools, but it would be nice to be able to create a system that could be, reliable, like across the board.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, thank you.
Director Benaloga.
Yes, thank you. I want to congratulate you, Katie. It sounds like you're doing, and I hear about the wonderful things that are happening at Wichita. I also want to echo Director Perez that I think it's so important that our families, and I noted that as well, that that the families that come into the Wichita Center don't feel judgment, they feel compassion, they feel supported, and they feel empathy. And I think that's a true gift, and that's something that the food boxes are very, very helpful, and we understand that meeting those basic needs is paramount, but I think also just treating people with dignity and respect is so important. So we appreciate all that you and your team are doing. Thank you.
Director McVeigh.
Thank you, Katie, for what you do. And I'm not going to repeat my fellow board members' very thoughtful and heartfelt comments. I also want to thank the association for making sure this happens every month. It can be a task, but it never feels like it's a task from you guys. It always feels like it always feels like and sounds like that it's very heartfelt, and it's an honor to honor these great educators. And thank you for that.
Director Bauer.
Well, thank you, board members, for all of your great comments. I can't, it's hard to do better than that, except thank you for the very important work that you do, Katie, and Andrea for recognizing what she does. I've seen Katie in so many roles in this district. She's presenting, she's connecting, she's out there collecting. She seems to be everywhere at times, but thank you so much for that very important work that you do.
Director Strado.
Thank you for being part of our unique family. The work you do is so valuable, helping so many. And to the association, thank you for bringing such a wonderful gift to us this evening. Nice to meet you.
I would just like to say a shout out to Sandra Henderson, who helps me to coordinate and get this on the schedule. She's amazing. So I appreciate her as well.
Absolutely. She is amazing.
She is amazing.
Thank you, Katie Ray, for all the work that you do with your team. As a kid who did homework to candlelight often, you never know what your one thing will do for the future. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your team. You might be feeding our next president. And so for that, we absolutely, absolutely appreciate you. Cool. Thank you, guys. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is the Black African American History Month proclamation. February is coming, and of course, as we know it, it is been marked as Black History Month in our nation. And just so that we're all very clear, it is a month that we recognize many Black leaders and Black achievers, but Black history is everyone's history. And so I hope that we can all find some pride in it and some hope. So I've sent out the order, so we will read the proclamation and then we will go through and vote on implementing it. Everyone have it? Just ahead now, I want to make sure we're all good. No, Tori, let me email it to you. Hold on.
I got my new iPad, and so I am behind on.
You want it on your on point or?
The school district one is fine.
Okay, just sent it.
Okay.
Okay, let's get started. You're at the bottom, so we'll start. So you
Okay.
should. Okay. Go ahead, Director Way.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Ford, for introducing this amazing proclamation. So whereas during National Black African American History Month, we celebrate the vast contributions of Black African Americans to our nation's history and identity, and
Whereas Black African American History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And
Director Schrader.
He's on mute.
He needs to get smarter and know how to hit a button. So that's a different challenge. I apologize. Whereas the 2021 national theme for the observation is the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity, and
Whereas the North Clackamas School District is deeply committed to equity and inclusion, the stance includes the cultural and racial affirmations of our students, staff, parents, and community members who identify as Black African American, and
whereas the North Clackamas School District strives to close the equity and outcome gaps for Black African American students through policies and practices that reflect the experiences of Black African American students, ensure greater access and opportunity, and honor history, heritage, and contributions, and
whereas our community is better because of the diversity of our population, and
now, therefore, be it resolved that the North Clackamas School District hereby proclaims the month of February 2021 as Black African American History Month in the North Clackamas School District and encourage all residents to honor Black American history and culture, adopted the 14th day of January 2021. Thank you all for reading that. I'll open the floor now for a motion.
Bauer. I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation oops, I'm on the wrong one, sorry. To adopt the proclamation recognizing February 2021 as Black African American History Month in North Clackamas School District.
Schradel, second. Oh, unless Kathy was that Kathy?
Gotcha, Schrader. It's properly moved in second. You guys are fighting over it. Sometimes I have to like beg you guys, like I'm sitting on the edge. And then sometimes you guys are fighting over it. It's probably moved this second. Any discussion needed?
I would like to just say a few words, if I may, Chair Ford. I know that this summer we saw a lot of activism and unrest due to the murder of George Floyd. And I just am the organizing that happened, particularly among our young people and our parents in Clackamas, in Happy Valley, Milwaukee. I know that Chair Ford also led some of those talks in front of our school community. I just want to just recognize that, and that I think in the face of fighting for social justice and racial justice for all people in all communities, I am just proud that we have such amazing young leaders who are not afraid and who are using their voice and using their actions to speak out. So just wanted to say that.
Cool. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
Chair Ford, I would just like to add, Kathy, thank you for those great words, but how important this is for our students, as Kathy was saying, and that we continue to learn and we continue to support. And it's especially needed now that we fit in and learn again about the true history of each of our cultures, and who built the buildings that we govern in. What is the true history of our country? Continue to celebrate those cultural differences and support our students.
Shradle, I'd like to say, every day I must wake up and be an ally again for the African-American community to make sure that injustices are fixed. Recognizing this month is minuscule of the work we need to do to help educate the youth to change the future.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I would just say that I am so proud to be part of the school district and to be on this journey that Matt and team has brought to light to so many people in the school district setting and in the community. And it's a marathon, not a race. And we will, we're getting there. So thanks to everyone who's been part of the journey. Gather, gather more.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, with no other discussion, I'll just close by saying, as an African-American woman, I am super proud of this proclamation, as I am with all cultural proclamations, because what I do know is that when you want people to belong, you have to recognize. And every time we proclaim recognition, we just open another door for someone else to feel comfortable. So like I said earlier, this is Black History Month recognition, but Black History Month, all cultural history months are our history in this country. And I live for the day that we all find pride in all of our history and not segmented pieces of it. So with that being said, let's vote. Anyone with a nay?
Director Ford, I would really feel strongly that I would like to verbally say yes or aye to the motion.
Excellent. I will do that. Director Way.
Definitely aye.
Excellent. Director Perez.
Absolutely aye.
Director Benaloga.
Absolutely aye.
Director Way.
Director Way.
Director McVeigh.
Aye.
Director Bauer.
Aye.
Director Cradle.
Definitely yay, aye.
An aye for me. And I'm sorry, emotional, but I have a history of people who waited for recognition. So I just super want to acknowledge you guys. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. And I'm a crybaby anyway. You guys know that, but I appreciate you guys. All right, now that I can gather myself, I appreciate that. Moving on, the next thing on our list is our board recognitions. Yes, our kids, National Merit Scholars. Petra, what you got for us? More great news.
Hey, I love great news. Good evening, directors. I am really happy to recognize some of our students. Every year, the National Merit Scholarship Corporation recognizes students for their outstanding performance on the PSAT across the entire country. So we have some of those recognized students with us in our very own North Clackamas. And I believe we've got 3 of those students with us tonight. So I am going to present the students, and the ones that are here, I'd really love to have the, to ask them a couple of questions, and so that you're able to also recognize them sort of kind of in person, in virtual person. So we have 2 students from Clackamas High School that have been honored as semifinalists. We have Sabrina Lee and Ishan Rao. Sabrina Lee, I believe you are here. Are you here somewhere?
Yep, I'm here.
Ah, wonderful. Sabrina, we are really happy to recognize you. And I know I'd love to know what your plans are for next year.
I just finished applying to colleges, so I'm not sure yet, but I'm hoping to pursue pre-med and major in biology, but not sure which college I'm going to yet. Just waiting hopefully on that.
Yeah, it's a little early to make that decision, but we know that you will end up in a wonderful place. And Ishan Rao, are you here?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. So what are your plans for next year?
Like Sabrina, I have applied and am waiting to hear back from a couple of different places. Ideally, I would like to go into aerospace engineering, but I've been told plans change often in college, so we'll see.
Yes, I actually, in college, I had no idea that I would be doing this job today. If you would have asked me, I would have said, no, not that. So you never know. So for the both of you, I'd like to hear maybe one thing about your time at Clackamas High School that has been important to you.
I guess I could go first. Something that's been really important to me is how we have like a ton of different diverse clubs and sports activities that we can just bond together with, and you can get together with students of like-minded interests and just share and do what you love together with other students who also love the same thing. And I think that's a good way to stay involved, especially during this time when everyone's at home, but clubs are still going on online and we're all making it work. So I really love that about Clackamas.
Yeah, I just have to say, and then I'm sorry to interrupt. It has been so inspiring, like during this difficult time, y'all are making things work and you're figuring it out and you're finding ways to connect with each other. And it's incredible resilience. Sorry, go ahead, Ishan.
I definitely want to second what Sabrina was saying. The clubs have definitely been helpful. The other one I would like to add is to thank the teachers. Especially this year, I have had some really ingenious ideas from several of my teachers, and they're making things work even when things get rough. And I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for a few of those teachers over the years at North Clackamas.
Right. Thank you so much. Joining these 2 students, we also have students that have been honored as commended students. From Clackamas, there's Jay Choi, Elise Kang, Ann Fan, and Catherine Wardwell. I don't believe any of these students are with us tonight, but I'll check just in case. Oh, okay, I'm right about that. And from Rex Putnam High School, we have Amelia Pomazal, and I do believe that she is here with us. Amelia? Maybe not. All right. Well, It looks like Amelia was not able to make it, but I would just really, we're proud of our students here and all the wonderful things that they do. And we know that they have incredible futures ahead of them. So thank you so much. And I will leave it to you directors.
Excellent. Well, we've got 2 kids here. They're still here. I see them. So let's make sure we give them the best congratulations ever. Director Strado, what do you got to say?
To be young again and going off to college. So many positive things are going to happen for you through the journey through life, and so proud to have met you on this video call. And do check in. Aerospace is dear to me. I if you can finish that out and make it convenient for us all to travel, that'd be great.
Good stuff. Director Bauer.
Congratulations on your achievements. And it's nice to hear that you do appreciate the diversity and how valuable that is now and will be in your future. And to recognize, who helped you get there. So I know you'll have a great future. Congratulations.
Director McVeigh.
I just want to say congratulations. It's been a wonderful school year, obviously, with what you guys have had to deal with. And thank you for acknowledging what the teachers have gone through also. And enjoy college when you're there, and don't set yourself up for failure. And when you make a mistake, it's fine. Learn from it. Write it down. It should be the best time of your life. So, and it will be if you want it to be.
Excellent. Director Benaloga.
Yes, I also want to extend my congratulations and just say that it's wonderful to have such accomplished and successful young people. We have so many in our district, and it's wonderful to honor you. I also want to convey it's wonderful to hear that you've had some positive experiences, and also looking back at the staff and the people that helped get you there. So we are fortunate to have you as part of the North Clackamas family, and we wish you all the best in your future.
Excellent. Director Perez.
Yeah, congratulations, Sabrina. And is Sean? Did I say that right? Congratulations. And also I want to say to Sabrina for recognizing the diverse clubs, and know that diversity is what makes our country special, and we all come together and with our diverse backgrounds, and it makes our world go round. And then Sean, thank you for recognizing teachers, because they become like a second parent sometimes, and they pour a lot of energy into their children, and it's great that you remember them. And great job, you guys, and I wish the best for you in college. I know you guys will do great. Persevere.
Director Way.
Yes. Hello, Sabrina and Ishan. I hope you can all see us. But congratulations on such a great achievement, and for representing North Clackamas as well as your respective high schools. I can relate to Sabrina what you're saying in terms of you're not quite sure yet, all the different steps. I totally hear you. When I went to college, I was a first generation college student, and I had, I think, like 3 or 4 majors, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I actually ended up switching universities halfway through. So totally understand where you're coming from. And, one of the things that I learned in sort of just in my journey is this one phrase, which is whatever your identity is, never forget that, because the world will try to change you. So as long as you are true to who you are and your identity or identities, always stick to that, and don't let anyone or don't let the world change that.
Excellent. And I will end with by saying congratulations to all of you. Of course, we have two that are here, but everyone that has received this recognition. And my favorite quote for all children in the world is, the biggest mistake, the greatest mistake that you can ever make is being continuously afraid that you're going to make a mistake. Just do it. Go for it. Be all that you are supposed to be, whatever that is. We will be proud of you. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. And we're excited for all of you. Next on our agenda is our school board recognition. As I sit here, I'm writing with my stuff. Is it Matt? Are you presenting?
I am.
Excellent. Superintendent.
Sit back for a few seconds, and we're just going to continue to pass the love around these last few agenda items. The Oregon School Boards Association has set aside the month of January to honor the unpaid elected volunteers who serve on Oregon's 197 local school boards and our 19 education service districts and our 19 community college boards. And I want to thank you on behalf of the North Clackamas community for giving your personal time, your energy in handling the critical task of budgeting and overseeing the management of the North Clackamas School District. I want you to know that I brag about you often to my administrative colleagues around the state for what an amazing supportive board that you are. I think you do an amazing job of advocating for each member of our community. And I just look forward to, in a year from now, watching you a little bit further away than the seat, but the good work that you're promoting in this community and in the school district, and your advocacy and almost your fight, right, for each of our students. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this an enjoyable experience and being the superintendent in the school district. And please continue to serve. Please continue to give of your time and your energy. You are making a difference in this community. And so on behalf of January being School Board Appreciation Month, the wonderful Sandra Henderson, as you referenced earlier, I believe, visited each of your homes earlier this week with a gift bag. Please enjoy the pillow blanket with the North Clackamas logo on it. I know Libra and others will enjoy the bag of candy that you don't get the access to while we're meeting virtually. So we wanted to make sure we took care of that.
Somebody got candy?
There's candy in the bag, Stephen. You got it there for tonight. And
already gained a pound.
You enjoyed some of the swag that was in there as well. So again, thank you so much, and we really do appreciate the work that you're doing.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. The gifts are awesome. I'm using my pen as we speak.
I'd like to say I'm very fortunate and lucky to work with all of you, and I appreciate your gift of your time to the community.
Other comments? Look at the virtual hug from Director McVeigh.
That was a big hug.
That was a big hug. He grabbed us all together.
Can I just say real quick, I gotta tell you that pillow blanket, the last few months, there's 3 blankets on our couch, and between my wife and my 2 kids and myself, there's always one left out, and it's always me. So when I saw the pillow blanket, I was like, yes, I'm using it already with my candy.
That's great. My candy's gone, but oh, good stuff. Thank you guys for the gifts. We appreciate it. Next on our agenda, we have Milwaukee Academy of the Arts Charter Renewal School Presentation, and we have Miss Tiffany Shireman. How are you today? Long time. You're on mute. Still can't hear you. We're viewing your screen, but we can't hear you. We see you. No sound, no. Let's see.
Should be unmuted.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed a second there, maybe at my expense. I believe you should be viewing presentation slide. Is that accurate? Great. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for that moment. This evening, I'm bringing forward a discussion item. I'm not seeking your action this evening. It's a discussion item and then a public hearing related to the Milwaukee Academy of the Arts request to renew its charter with the North Clackamas School District. And I'm proud, and it's my privilege to bring forward a program that I have been fortunate to have been involved with for about the last decade in my career. This presentation will be in 3 parts. I'll begin with an overview of some information. This is a formal process around a charter renewal. And then we'll have Principal Gelman and Director Weathers provide some information about the school and a school-based report. And then I'll conclude with next steps, and then we'll move on to the hearing. Just so you know, midway through, we'll switch presentation slides, so there will be a moment there. The North Clackamas School District Strategic Plan has the concept of student engagement and excellence woven throughout it. Students are at the heart of North Clackamas schools, where they become artists, scientists, teachers, athletes, community leaders. To this end, North Clackamas has maintained a portfolio of educational options as students move through the school system. And there are 4 charter schools currently sponsored by North Clackamas Schools. Charter schools in the state of Oregon are free public education. They're governed by Oregon state law, authorized by an educational institution. And in this case, the last renewal was for 5 years, and Milwaukee Academy of the Arts is coming to you as the education institution asking for a renewal of that charter. The specific process is outlined in your board packet. But just to remind everybody, this is a 2-phase process. The first phase is what we're going through tonight, and later in the month, MA requesting renewal. You'll receive tonight the superintendent's recommendation for renewal or non-renewal. And then once we've moved through that renewal process, we'll be back in the March-April timeline, somewhere in there, with a contract for you that is the second phase of this process. So tonight I'm providing you with the staff and superintendent's recommendation, which is to approve MA's request for charter renewal. In order to determine this recommendation, staff initiated early last year an external review of the Milwaukee Academy of the Arts. It was conducted in alignment with national charter school standards and looking at Oregon state law. This external evaluation, which is something that we've done for the renewal process for Clackamas Web Academy, Clackamas Middle College, Cascade Heights Public Charter, and this is then the second time that we've done a full formal external review with Milwaukee Academy of the Arts. It included an academic performance review, organizational performance, financial performance, and the summary of those findings are in the board packet. I will bring forward just a couple of them. Identified as findings, there were successes identified in the report. Of course, there were many, including English language arts assessment outcomes, particularly around Latinx and students who identify as economically disadvantaged. Additional successes included community inclusivity, students reporting a sense of strong social emotional support, and routinely the 4 and 5 year graduation rates and completer rates are high. There are challenges, like with any school. The challenges in this case are primarily in the areas of academic performance and math. And then deeply intertwining MA's art focus and mission with daily instruction. It's a continual role to try to bring the arts into not just elective courses, but braided throughout the curriculum. Another piece that comes forward is because of the unique relationship between MA and Milwaukee High School, students and staff share time between the two schools, and at times the lines become very blurred between what is Milwaukee Academy of the Arts and what is Milwaukee High School. This is unusual for a charter school. Typically, charter schools do sit aside from any other school. So in a way, it's a challenge, and in a way, it's a strength. Knowing where MA stops and where Milwaukee High School starts, like I said, can be blurred. And in part, one of the benefits of that is a very inclusive community, a community where all students learn to cross between the two schools, MA and Milwaukee High School, both socially and academically. What is very clear, I guess, from the external evaluation is that the partnership between the two schools is providing students with opportunities they would not have outside of these two schools partnering together. And the recommendation for the school's renewal is supported by quantitative data as well as qualitative data. As you can see on the slide, multiple sources. I'm going to invite Principal Gelman and Director Weathers to now move forward with more information about their program.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Of course.
And I want to start out. Hi, I'm Carmen Gelman. I'm principal of Milwaukee High School in Milwaukee Academy of the Arts. Buenas noches. I also want to thank the board for all of your hard work, Chair Ford, and the rest of you. I'm so excited to see you and just how you started. And I also want to take a moment because we have some board members some MA board members in the audience as well, and thank them for all of their hard work. It's so nice to see all of you tonight. So thank you. I was super excited to hear the land recognition, but especially the Black, well, not especially, but the Black African American proclamation.
So on my side, did we lose her or is it just me?
I have also lost.
We lost her.
I think she said her computer might have just died and had a little issue.
Uh-oh. Times.
I totally understand.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. She says, go ahead and keep going. And when she comes back, she'll rejoin the conversation. Her and I have spent a lot of time thinking about this presentation and working together. So we'll have her join us when she jumps back on. Good evening. It's nice to see everyone tonight. My name is Christy Weathers, and I'm the director at Milwaukee Academy of the Arts, in addition to being an assistant principal at Milwaukee High School. Wanted to share with you just some background information on Milwaukee Academy of the Arts. If this is a new presentation to some of you or you haven't been to visit our school. Milwaukee Academy of the Arts is a charter on the Milwaukee High School campus, and it's a small learning community where students are participating in core curriculum and viewing that curriculum through the arts. The philosophy of the school is to really cultivate the artist mindset and to help students reach their potential intellectually as an artist and whatever creative outlets they may have. Some history about the school is that it started in 2005. And like Tiffany shared earlier, it's really an embedded nature within Milwaukee High School. And so our students that attend MA as a MA student also participate with Milwaukee High School students in classes other than their core classes. So things like electives, Sabin-Schellenberg, PE, health, and then just the school setting as they have access to all of the clubs, activities, and athletic programs. Our school was founded to weave the arts through the core curriculum and to really look at project-based learning and how that can impact the learning experience when we really think about the right brain and getting the right side of your brain active through multiple intelligences in your learning. The history of our school is that we're consistently meeting high standards and that students and parents are often very satisfied with the level of education for students at Milwaukee Academy of the Arts. We wanted to share a little bit about our enrollment at MA. We take up to 100 students per grade level every year. We have an enrollment process, a lottery, and it opens in December and it goes through March 15th. and we take up to 100 students. If people apply, they get in. If it hits 100 students, then we have a lottery after that. You'll notice that we have pretty strong cohorts consistently the last 5 years, holding in that 70, 80, and up to 90 range. One thing that I wanted to highlight was that the last 2 years we had a dip in our senior level. We had 55 students and 63 students the year before. And many students left the school at that time because they didn't want to be out in the portables, out on the football field when we were rebuilding the new high school. So when students were thinking about the choice they had where they wanted to go to high school, many students wanted to be in a real building. So we have students now ready to go into that brand new high school, and it's so beautiful. We cannot wait to have students explore that new space. Of course, we look at our school report card each year and see how we're doing according to some standardized state metrics. Last year, we don't have as many pieces of data for that because of COVID, but a couple things to highlight. Our freshman on track rate for Milwaukee Academy of the Arts was 84.8%. Our goal is 88%, but we are working hard towards that. Our graduation rate was 87%. Last year, another highlight was that, like Tiffany shared in your board packet, Vicki Lukic did a comprehensive evaluation, and she spent time talking to parents, the MA board, she talked to staff, teachers, administration, and then she got to spend some time talking to students in some focus groups. I got to participate in some of those groups, and it was really, really cool to hear from our students how much MA means to them. And every time we'd ask a question about, well, what if MA didn't exist? And kids would say, what do you mean? MA has to exist. This is home. This is where I belong. And this is where I'm having such an awesome high school experience. So, we hear that over and over from our students, that they have a sense of belonging, and it's home for a lot of our students. So that was encouraging last year to hear. Wanted to give you a little idea of some of the core curriculum at MA and some of our core classes. Students that come to MA, they go through the core classes in English, science, social studies, and math, aside from there's no social studies in 9th grade, but they go through those core classes within the cohort of MA students. So that would be a time when they are not overlapping with MHS students. One of the unique features and electives in the MA in the MA school is the arts lab, which is in 9th grade. And the arts lab is really a project-based learning class, and it integrates core learning with arts learning. They learn how to do rigorous research, and then they synthesize their learning in the form of a product and make a public presentation of their learning. And that's really meant to help them think about being lifelong learners, critical thinkers, creative problem solvers, and look at things through multiple perspectives. I do want to point out that all of our students that attend Milwaukee Academy of the Arts also have access to many advanced placement courses that we offer at Milwaukee High School, and they also have access to classes at Sabin-Schellenberg. I'm going to turn it over to Principal Gelman to talk about some of the benefits of being a MA student. If she's back.
I'm back. Okay, thank you. Sorry, my computer froze and just shut off. So the benefits of being a student at MA. So the core curriculum is taught through an arts lens, and we try to embed art in science, language arts, math, and the other subjects. We had a really rich meeting today talking about how we can do a better job of that and make it even better. So that's our goal for next year. We're really excited about it. It's an incredibly inclusive environment and community. Our students often tell us they love MA. They hang out a lot of times together down in the Performing Arts building. It's a really tight-knit community. They advocate for one another. It's been really fun to watch this community of students, our community of students. Collaboration with Milwaukee High School provides unique access to a variety of programs. So students in MA and MHS are involved in athletics, sports, clubs, activities, leadership, all of those things. It's been a rich experience for not only the students, but us as adults too, because students bring so much to us and we learn so much from them. Again, it's a small community, access to a robust arts program, staff commitment to MA community, that's really evident. Our staff really pride themselves in the work that they do to embrace the MA community, and our students. Dedicated counselors move with students. So we went to grade level counseling where each grade has their own counselor, and that counselor moves up with them throughout their high school experience, which is really important because then that counselor can focus on that grade rather than having 300 students on their caseload from all different grades. So that's been really a great process, especially with the 9th grade teams. Art school diploma, students will get benefit from applying to creative post-secondary programs and colleges, and they get a seal on their diploma that indicates that they went to an arts school. Some of the strengths and challenges that we've been experiencing, and Tiffany touched on them a little bit. Our strengths are inclusive community of artists and right brain learners, and also bringing in a lot of artists from the community that are able to teach and work with our students has been really exciting. A place to explore what being an artist means to you. Strong academic achievement in language arts, promoting a college-going culture and future in the arts, and then 9th grade teams. The challenges we've experienced are the MA identity within the Milwaukee high school setting, and we have been working really hard to create a really positive culture at Milwaukee. And in leadership is really diverse now with like MA students and MHS students. And so they really work hard together because kids do want to have an identity, and that's really important. And they want to have an art identity and the comprehensive identity, but they're working together on how to bridge that gap and still support one another in their identities. So that's been really awesome. The math achievement has been a challenge. So this year we implemented a 9th grade team with MA and added them to the 9th grade teams. And we've been working hard on math. We had peer math tutors in classes last school year. So that was really effective. So at the end of this first quarter, our 9th graders they passed algebra and geometry, they in the 90 percentile, all 9th graders. So that is going up. And so we're really excited about the math achievement for this first quarter of this school year. Enrolling and supporting a diverse student body that reflects the surrounding community. This is also something that we are currently beginning to address. We have placed cultural dance on the forecasting sheet for next school year. We have a beautiful dance floor, and it was our library for the last 2 years while we were in modulars. And now it's been redone, it's beautiful. And so we're really excited about adding dance. And we're looking at students being able to take dance like folklorico, African dance, tap dance, and lots of other types of dances, and including the community in that. Professional development for teachers of art integration in core subjects. That is something we are also currently working on to make sure that that our teachers are getting professional development with art. And then reimagining Arts Lab. So those are all the challenges that we've had, but we also have been really strategic about making sure that we're addressing these as we move forward.
We're going to take questions in just a second. I wanted to share one other piece on our enrollment numbers. We did a little bit of research, and 60% of our students are from within the North Clackamas School District. 40% are outside of that. Within the North Clackamas School District, 6% of our kids come from Clackamas feeder, 40% from Milwaukee, and 14% from Putnam. So we have a variety of students from all of our district, but also almost half of our students from outside of our school district joining us at MA. We're happy to take any questions at this time if you have any questions, and if not, we'll go back over to Tiffany to look to next steps.
Excellent. I'll do a rotation just to make sure we get everyone. Thank you guys for that presentation. Director Wei, do you have any questions?
I just had one question, but just really great presentation overall. So thank you so much for virtually coming to us and talking about all your great work. I think, Carmen, you had alluded to recruiting students or something along the lines of enrollment reflecting the community as a challenge. Can you talk a little bit more on what you feel like the board can do to help or the district can do to help with that? I'm just curious.
Sure. Lots of money. No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely writing that down.
Well, I think that just being able to showcase MA and those opportunities, we've been, you know, we always take any kind of recommendation. So like if you have suggestions or any resources for us, for example, dance, it's really important to us that we embed community also into our school. We're a school community, but we're a greater community. And it's really important that if we look at, you know, diversity and inclusion, it is an equity and inclusion. It is important that community members also feel like they're part of the school. And I think we have such a rich community that helping, if you have a really great dance, for example, that's a way that you guys can come help teach with our teachers. We've been talking to our parents also because we have a large Latinx population as well, and they're very interested in that. And they do come and teach folklorico after school when we have the Latino events at Milwaukee. And so kids dance, and it's been really wonderful. And so I think we just want to make sure that the students in our MA program really reflect our student body. And we are 49% students of color. And we want to make sure that our arts are representing that. So we are working on that. We have work to do. And we're going to continue to work on that and make sure that what we're offering is culturally relevant. So there's a lot of work going on to address that issue.
Thank you.
Director Perez.
Yeah, question. Thank you, Principal Gelman and Assistant Principal Weathers for that awesome presentation. I have one question. Just wondering, is there anything where, like a day throughout the year, where students from all the local middle schools can like come to the MA and kind of get a tour and kind of see what it's all about? I'm just curious if there's anything like that, because I was just thinking back to when I was in 8th grade, which was about 10 years ago. Had to sneak that in there, and but I don't remember getting tours of or being able to go to any of the high schools to see. And when I think back about it and some of the pretty neat programs that were in the high schools where I grew up, I wish I would have been able to go to some of the high schools and just see what, you know, was being offered and just kind of get a firsthand in person. So that's my question. I'm wondering if there's anything like that, a day for all the middle schools to see them or something like that.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. In the springtime, when we begin our forecasting process with the 8th graders at all 4 of our middle schools in our district, Milwaukee Academy of the Arts always sends a representative. It's usually the director of Milwaukee Academy of the Arts. So I got to go last year. And I get to visit the schools and just share information about MA and what it's all about. I get to make a parent presentation usually one evening in the spring. And that's where we just let families know about options for high school. Last year I went to RAU and they did a big feeder school thing there and just what are your options in the feeder. So got to meet a lot of kids and families there. And then we usually host about 4 open houses in the spring in the evening time at our school. And we have families from all over the Portland area that attend and also families within our district. We usually have teachers and students and MA board members at that. And so families can take a tour of the campus, ask questions, all of that. And then if we were in a typical school year, we have a shadow experience where students can sign up for either half a day or a whole day to shadow a MA student. And they come spend the day with us and see what it's like on campus. So I would say we have maybe 60, 70 of those each spring. We certainly had a lot last year, and that's one of the things we're not able to do this year because of the online format, but we are hosting 2 open houses virtually, February 2nd and 4th in the evening. So that'll be on social media. It's already gone out on the North Clackamas social media, but we'll keep reposting that. So if you know anyone that's interested, please share with them.
Okay. Thank you, Director Weathers and Principal Gelman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Benaloga.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ford. And thank you, Director Weathers and Principal Gelman, for your presentation. I remember when Ma started many, many moons ago. So it's been wonderful to see, just to see the expansion and the growth that Ma has had since it started. I did have a couple of quick questions. Are you saying, and I want to get the percentages correct, you have 49% students of color at Milwaukee or at Ma?
No, Milwaukee as a whole, not
Okay.
at Ma.
Okay. Do you,
Yeah.
is that something that you're working on? Do you know what your diversity is? Is that something that you're working on to get a diverse population of students at Ma?
Yes, so we want a diverse population, and we also want our other, we want students to have access to things that they're passionate about, right? And we know that the arts create a lot of opportunities for kids. So it is important that Ma represents kind of the greater, just Milwaukee as a whole, if you know what I mean. So I want kids to be able to see themselves in Ma as well. So having a diverse population in Ma, and also just different diverse art options.
All right, excellent. And the teachers, I know there's been lots of evolution in Ma. Do the teachers have to teach, are they teaching MHS and Ma? So are they doing professional development for both? If they're a core teacher?
Yeah, so we have teachers that teach both Ma students and MHS students. I would say the core values that drive our campus apply to both schools. So when we're thinking about relationships, student-centered, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and being future ready, those core values apply to both schools. We do have separate meetings and professional development at times for just Ma teachers that teach the core classes. But because there's so much crossover between Ma students and MHS students, we try to bring professional development that is good for all of our teachers and all of our staff.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing the building and seeing where Ma is housed. I remember the Ma hallway. So I look forward to seeing what's been done in the new building, and really am excited to see Ma going forward, and of course the success of all of our schools as well. So thank you so much for your presentation and answering my question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director McVeigh.
Thank you, Christy and Carmen, for your presentation. Hopefully your computer is okay, Carmen.
Thank you for like breaking down right when you're about to talk. So
Right. I just want to say thank you for making sure Ma is inclusive of the community and vice versa. I mean, it takes a village. I don't want to say that lightly because I mean it. And we can't, it's a Ma presentation, we have to thank you both for what you do for Milwaukee High School too. I mean, it is blurred, and you do a great job of making sure that that both communities are supported and included. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Bauer.
Hi, thank you so much for coming tonight. And whenever I visited, you have always welcomed me, and there's a feeling of belonging from you and your staff. They're always happy to see you or see me. And Christy, it's nice to see you over there too, because I know you always are so welcoming too. Boy, congratulations on all of the great work you're doing, and the data is just amazing. And you're so transparent too about the areas you're working. And as Chair Ford said before, I used to be a math teacher, and that was a mathematician, so math caught my eye. But already it sounds like you're doing a lot, with that it's my understanding from your presentation and your notes that there's a teachers development group. And is that for breaking the data down to see where you need to focus? And then you said something about peer support and then integration. So are all of those things helping then? You're doing all three of those together to help increase your math skills for students?
Yes, it's multiple. We're going in trying different things. So before we used to have like teacher's aides, right? Teacher assistants. And so we thought, how would kids do better in math? Because math is a really difficult subject for a lot of students. And we thought, we had an EL class and a student was helping another student. And we thought we should we should have students be peer mentors in a class rather than just a TA, right? Like it's really good for students because they seem to reach out to other students more often. They're more comfortable with them and they're willing to just be more vulnerable. And then what happens with the peer mentors is they're also gaining skills as they're teaching and helping their peers. And so these are all college and career readiness skills. And whenever we're implementing any plans or being strategic, we do take our core values and we look at them and say, well, how can we make sure kids are getting different skills where it's not just necessarily academic, but those soft skills as well. And so the peer mentoring program started last year, peer tutoring. And then we implemented the 9th grade MA team this year as well. And so that's been really helpful. And then we also have, and we left out, but we also have implemented tutoring. We have tutoring 4 days a week now, including on Saturdays. And so we're trying a lot of different things to support our students.
Yeah, and just a comment on the teacher development group. That is a group of mathematicians that you would probably love so much, Mitzi, but they do professional development with our math teachers and they talk about the habits of mind and interaction. And it's really about collaborative teaching strategies and getting students to represent their thinking visually and models and that conceptual understanding of mathematics, which as we know is good for students, especially that like to think with the right side of their brain. So that teacher development group has been ongoing over the last few years for teachers.
Great. Well, thank you for all you're doing with students.
Thank you, Mitzi. It's good to see you. All of you.
Director Strado, anything?
I remember when Ma started, remember when Ma got increased as far as number of students, seeing the successes come out of it. I remember the very first time I met Cameron, I went over for a meeting over on campus, and I looked much younger in person, and she was like, "Hey, who are you? Stop!" And so to know that Carmen and Kristen are completely aware of who is the staff, who is the students, what are they doing, they're protecting of our future leaders, and keep doing the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And I just have a couple comments and a question. So first and foremost, wonderful presentation. I was not expecting anything less. And I think everyone knows that I have a student at Ma, so definitely a champion. And I'm also a graduate of the famed high school in New York City. So I'm a big proponent of arts in high schools and what it can do for students. It's just it's a wonderful thing. And I think I love the fact that you guys are aiming for more diversity in the school, because that is something that I think as a family we've experienced. Is just different, right? Like you go to Ma and then you go to the high school and you definitely see it in the high school, but Ma's a little differently. And so attacking it from the actual art expectations or presentation, I think is brilliant, because that is something that will bring different people. Right now it's very classical focused. So you're going to get a certain type that's interested in that versus having more diverse options. So I appreciate you guys acknowledging that. I will say that just out of personal experience, the arts lab, I'd love to see that you guys are working on that. It was a struggle in my house. Definitely not a favorite class. I think the presentation of it is that it will have a lot of arts focus. I think kids go into thinking that it will be very like artsy. I get to do something that's academic, but I'm doing it from my arts lens. And so the intention and impact definitely didn't meet there. And so what specifically are you guys looking to do to kind of reimagine it when you say you're reimagining those things?
Yeah, I think we might both have some thoughts about that. One of the things is that in the new building, we have a maker space, and that's a space where students can build, design, do all kinds of things. And that's a space that we've not yet to fully explore, but our teachers are really interested in incorporating that space into the arts lab. And also Arts Lab, has been pretty much the same since the school started. And as we're we're all growing as artists, and what does it mean to be an artist, I think that we're looking to expand the class and maybe change some things up as we get new students and new perspectives. And I think one of the biggest things that we have to do is work with our students and ask them, what was meaningful for you in this class? What do you wish you would have got out of this class? Because I think our students most of the time have the answers as to what would have been a better experience for them, and just kind of see where that goes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Ford. You are correct, and a lot of our students have been giving us that feedback. So we hear it, and we are addressing it in certain ways. So right now we're in the conversation phase. We've been having these conversations with the Arts Lab is taught by 3 teachers, and so having those conversations of revamping the curriculum for Arts Lab for the fall. So that is a conversation we already started having. And so, and it was based on student voice, but also on this report. And so those conversations started, and then the pandemic hit. And then now we're starting that again with what will this look like in the fall? Because we want to make sure that it's something that is meaningful and, like you said, that has a really big art component when they're doing project-based learning. So, and it's funny because I hear a lot of times from students, like they hate it in the 9th grade. And then when they're seniors, they're like, that was really helpful as far as preparing me. However, we don't want kids to hate it. We want kids to come and enjoy it and love it and do something really cool. So there's that part that we're working on.
Cool. And the last thing I'll say is just a comment. So the secret sauce of the Fame High School in New York is the thing they call David. And it's basically, David is every single arts area. It's dance, it's art, it's vocal, it's instrumental, and it's drama. And so in David, we had an instructor that was actually living in a David world at that moment. So they weren't just teachers, they were people who were performing in that moment, and kids had a lot of respect for them. So just a suggestion, but that's the secret sauce of Fame. It's the reason why people talk about it still to this day. So just wanted to pass that off to you guys. But thank you for your presentation. Super excited about where you guys are going. I think it's a great asset to this district. It's definitely different than many other districts.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Libra. And just so you know, right before we got shut down, there was an actor coming from New York City to come and do some not only presentations, but some teaching in the theater class last year, and we had to cancel it. So we are looking at things like that. We're currently working with Milagro Theater, which is 6 miles down the road. And they're doing a play on Dolores Huerta this year. And so they're working in the MAR classrooms. And so I really appreciate that. I think that is, kids love it, right? They get to see people in the field, so, and work with them. Thank you for that feedback.
Cool. All right, so are we ready for our hearing, Tiffany? Oh, you're still on mute, so I'm gonna ask you to unmute. There you go.
Just my internet keeps saying it's unstable. So if I pause, punt through the hearing portion of this. We have tonight, we'll finish up this agenda item, we'll go to the hearing, and then we'll be back at the February meeting seeking your action on the extension.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Okay, so am I saying the hearing's now open, or are you showing something first? Oh, there it is. Okay. The 2020-2021 charter renewal request for Milwaukee Academy of the Arts public hearing is now officially open at 8:18. Do we have any public comments regarding this? Do we know of any?
Board Secretary Sandra Henderson will let us know.
Okay.
Yes, Chair Ford, we did not receive any comments.
Okay. So I'm hearing that we have no comments. I am now closing the hearing at 8:18. We're probably some seconds behind it. Thank you, guys. All right, next thing on our agenda is the North Clackamas financial audit. Galen, we made it. We're here. You still with us? You're on mute.
I am, if I can get unmuted. Good evening. Tonight I present the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2020. I am joined by Jeremy Gingrich, partner with Wilcox Arredondo and Company, our auditors. First, I would like to acknowledge the hard work of our business services team, and especially Carrie Pinto and Donna Burke for their efforts to complete the CAFR this year and audit successfully. We were down 2 accountants out of 3, and it was quite the task this year. But we finished, we got it filed, and we will again be applying for both the ASBO and GFOA, which is the Association of School Business Officials and Government Finance Officers Association Financial Achievement Awards, which we received this year. We had a successful audit and received an unmodified opinion from our auditors, which is known as a clean opinion. The district was in compliance with governmental auditing standards as required by the state regulations, and we were also in compliance with regulations for all of our federal programs. As noted in the report to the Board of Directors from the audit firm, all significant transactions have been recognized in the proper period. There were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements during the audit, and there were no disagreements between management and the auditors. Are there any questions for either myself or Jeremy?
We'll go around robin. Director Schradel.
I have none, but congratulations on all the hard work you do. And thank you.
Director Bauer.
No questions, just thank you. It seemed very, very, very clean. Thank you. It was hard work.
Director McVeigh.
No questions other than a comment of thanks.
Okay. Director Benaloga.
No questions again, but just to echo the thanks and the hard work for the very comprehensive report. Thank you.
Director Perez.
Thank you, Chair. Echo what all my fellow board members have said. Thank you for your hard work in this, and congratulations. Nice.
Director Way.
Thank you for the presentation as well as the clean audit, and I also don't have any questions.
Excellent. And I echo everyone. Thank you guys so much. Auditors are designed and trained to find problems. So I think that it's awesome that they were unable to do that. I'm sorry, Jeremy, you probably have some anxiety, but you know, it is what it is. Thank you for that. Thank you, Galen. Next thing on our agenda is legislative agenda, and this is a discussion/action item, which means that as a board, we get to decide if the discussion moves to action. So we have Tiffany again. Are you prepared to start? I don't see your face, so maybe internet is an issue.
Hello there. I am on my way.
I see you.
And I should be there now.
Yep, gotcha.
So this evening, like Chair Ford said, discussion, and we're seeking your action tonight on the proposed legislative agenda for the next 2 full years. I will move through this and talk through some of the development of where we're headed with the legislative agenda, and then share the key priority areas. I recognize we're a little behind schedule tonight, so I will give some time on each slide when we get to the key areas, but not go into terribly long depth there, and you're welcome to ask questions. I know that many of you were in 2 presentations in the past 2 weeks already on this topic, so these materials were all in your board packet. For at least the last 8 years, North Clackamas School District Board of Directors has adopted a legislative agenda in the odd number years in order to provide clear direction and messaging regarding the school district's stance on issues of legislative importance. Just 1 second. I froze again. I assume you can hear me, and we'll proceed as such.
Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see. We can see the presentation and we can hear you.
Okay, I will see. Maybe I can get my camera up and going again. There we go. Not sure. A bit of an internet blip here. The Clackamas School District, in these odd number of years, is when we have adopted legislative agendas. And for staff, this provides the operational latitude of what they can advocate for on behalf of the school district, as well as for all of you, to make sure that we're real clear amongst ourselves what it is that the school district will put its name behind in terms of advocacy. One thing to note is we do have board policy in this area, and should any questions arise, we can consult it around who has the authority to maybe modify what we're advocating for or not. The development of the legislative agenda has historically, and again this year, been a collaborative process, considerable number of multiple viewpoints. And we also look at the basic legislative landscape of the state as a whole. This fall, a small planning team met, including Directors Way and Perez, Vice Chair Bauer, who worked together with members of the PCLA, that's the Superintendent's Parent and Community Leadership Alliance Advisory. We worked together to establish these proposed priorities, and then engage stakeholders in helping to flesh out those and helping to further refine and prioritize. We did that this year through a thought exchange. That thought exchange included students, staff, parents, community, school board members, leaders of labor associations, and legislators. In an invitational thought exchange, we reached out to 90 folks from those different groups, asked for their input on the priorities that initially were some draft concepts. And we had about 43 people participate in that process, giving about 400 different interactions and ratings and comments throughout the thought exchange process. You have information in attachment B that helps to summarize what the information was that was gathered throughout the process. And that led us then to coming forward with a legislative agenda that has 5 primary areas. The first being adequate, stable, and predictable funding. There are a number of pieces here, ensuring that the Student Success Act remains in place and separate from the state school fund. The primary piece, though, that we do need to move forward here is that, barring anything else, less than $9.5 billion would cause us to have to reduce our service levels. So in order to maintain our current service levels, we're looking for $9.5 billion over the biennium for the state as a whole. Second priority, actually I said second, these are not in a rank order necessarily. So the following priority to bring forward is to address COVID-19 expenses, liability, and learning implications. In many ways, funds have come forward to support. We've had PPE, personal protective equipment, et cetera. But we have a number of pieces that we want to make sure that we can address for the long haul. There will be, certainly there will be extended learning considerations, learning gaps, disrupted learning. And then of course, limited liability protection was needed. And we need the legislature to make sure that that stays in place now that it's there and is adequate. Another priority coming forward is racial equity in education and closing the opportunity gaps. 2 things that I'll highlight here on the slide. One is supporting statutory strong language in Oregon law prohibiting hate speech and symbols in schools. And, you know, one could argue in greater than just schools. For this purpose, we've said schools. And then a number of other topics here. One that I do want to bring forward is Ensuring that we have cultural responsiveness and anti-bias, anti-racist training for school employees, and that they're held accountable to employing culturally responsive and anti-bias practices. Also expanding ethnic studies, anti-bias, anti-racist curriculum for students. Number of pieces to this priority. The next priority is whole child, whole family approach to education. We know that the well-being of a child and their family greatly affects a student's education. And ensuring that students and families have access to school-based and community-based programs better equip students to achieve at high levels, clearly, we know that. So there's a number of items here. And then finally, maintaining local control of K-12 education. You all are elected by our community to provide local governance. And our students most benefit when you all are very close to that decision making and that those decisions aren't all made in Salem. So tonight is a discussion opportunity for you, proposed action, and then right away, we would share the legislative agenda with the same stakeholders who have been involved throughout the development process, out with legislators. We have Vice Chair Bauer prepared and ready to do some communication on your behalf if the board so chooses to approve the legislative agenda. And the legislature convenes right around the corner. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much. I do want to point out that the dates are really important in terms of us making the decision if this is just discussion or action. Our next meeting is after January 19th. So just be aware of that as we discuss things. So I'll do a round robin first. Director Strado.
Yeah, Director, I'm sorry. Tiffany Shireman, can you go back about 4 slides where it shows diversity training? I think it's like 4 or 5 back. Ensure culturally responsive and anti-bias, anti-racist training and actions by employees. Are all our employee groups currently participating in the training that we offer?
Yes, so within the school district, we have the Taking It Up series,
yes.
And all employee groups, including routine volunteers, community partners. So I would say it's employees plus a sphere, one circle out there in terms of who's engaged in Taking It Up. Though that is one training, right? To be clear, that's one piece of the puzzle.
It's a starting piece. I'm just hoping that it does encompass, IAs, bus drivers, just all segments, people who interact with our students and families and community. So that was my only question. Thank you for the work.
Oh. Director Bauer. You are on mute. I see your lips moving though.
Can you read my lips?
No, not at all, actually. I need some serious glasses.
Okay. Thank you, Chief of Staff Shireman. I know you worked so hard on this and moved it ahead so quickly, but managed to get so much input from community, and the fact that it was shared already with PCLA a couple times and members there was great. Let's remind people of the governor's budget since we're on this subject. That was announced previously as, is it 9.1 billion? And did you say
that's
that?
My understanding. No, I didn't say that, but yes, the governor's budget came in at 9.1. I'm trying to get back to that funding slide there. The governor's budget came 9.1 billion. There usually is a gap between where the governor starts and where things end at the end of the legislative session. But we really do need to push that to 9.5 billion or more. We're looking even just to maintain a stable current service level. Oh, I may have frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I have no questions. I want to thank everyone that's part of this committee, though, and Tiffany for sharing.
Okay, Director Benaloga.
Yes, thank you, Chief of Staff Shireman. I know that a lot of work goes into the legislative agenda for the district. I just have to say, after going through, which I think many of you were on the other night, our advocacy forum that the PCLA put on, this is exactly what your advocates and the people that truly are the pushers in Salem and with the advocacy and the legislative pieces, this is exactly what they're looking for. They want to know that we're biting the hard fights and that we're not shying away from things that are going to be really challenging to advocate for. Of course, you know, the budget will be right out of the gate. I did have a quick question under that racial equity in education. It says to advocate for programs that increase the number of diverse school staff. So what, as a group, as a board, as a PCLA, what can we advocate for? Where do we need to go with that?
Sure. I'm assuming the question's for me. I heard most of it. I a little stunted there with the internet, but two things come to mind, and help staff move from perhaps a classified role into a certified kind of role. So things like assistance or medical insurance assistance as a staff member might want to grow professionally to another role in the school district, perhaps one that has a greater influence instructionally. So those kinds of, sometimes those programs are called Grow Your Own. It's tend to steer away from, but it just so you know that's the kind of term. And then another is finding ways to highlight the achievements of our current educators of color through mentorships, through anyone not being the only, right? Anytime we know that we're one and we're on, we see ourselves not with another person, we don't have any racial affinity with someone else on staff. So anything that would allow the flexibility for schools to be able to assign staff where there are other staff who could have racial affinity. Those are two things that come to my mind.
Okay.
I'm sure our human resources team could get you a list of a few other ideas.
Well, excellent. And I again just want to say I'm just really proud of this document. I think that we have such a passionate community and such an involved community. We have a lot of parents and community members that are very much behind the district. And I'm just really excited to see that this is something that is born of where we are right now, but also finding ways to involve our community in improving anything that we can and fighting for those pieces that we're still looking for. So thank you so much for all your work on this. I appreciate it.
Director Perez.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief of Staff. And I don't have any questions, but I just, because I've been on this, working on this with you and Vice Chair Barr and Director Benaloga. And I just want to say, and many others, I just want to thank you for all the blood, sweat, tears, and energy you poured into this and pour into this. And I know I've said thank you before, but I just thank you so much for all your work on this. Greatly appreciated.
Director Way.
Thank you, Chief of Staff Shireman. Just your leadership in this work, but just your passion and your teamwork, I think just really shows in not only this well-prepared document and presentation, but just all of the steps and all of the processes. So thank you so much. And I also want to echo what Director Benaloga said for all of the PCLA's parent and community efforts. Director Benaloga was leading like a facilitation exercise like the other day and like wearing multiple hats. And, I think when North Clackamas folks show up at the Capitol to lobby, we don't take no for an answer. And so, I think when Gina said pushers, absolutely, like more than pushers, right? And also Director Bauer and Director Perez, and I mean everyone. This is our living document of the legislative priorities that we set. So I think this is great. I think that we, even in this difficult time of the pandemic and knowing that resources are going to be scarce from the state, I feel really good that we have a legislative agenda that continues to prioritize equity, but also many of our communities and our educators and their needs, as well as, of course, our school funding, which is a big priority for all of us. So thank you again. And I don't know if we should continue to do more community engagement, but I'm also trying to be mindful of the timeline and that, hopefully the quicker that we can get this validated, folks can move forward with presenting it to legislators. So I'm in no rush, but I feel ready to take action if that's something that Chair Ford would like. Thank you.
I appreciate all of the comments, and I just want to say ditto all of that. Thank you guys for your work, and for the community that's listening. It is imperative that you fight against legislation that provides a mandate with no funding. It is the grossest form of systematic institutional racism. So if you know nothing else in all of these wonderful sheets, know that if someone gives you a law or a bill and they tell you there's no money behind it, they actually don't want you to do it. So we must fight against that always. I will open the floor if we are entertaining a motion. I will open the floor. If not, I will close it. But the floor is open if someone is so inclined to put a motion forward.
Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to adopt the proposed legislative agenda.
So properly moved. Do I have a second?
Director Benaloga, second.
So properly moved. Seconded.
Chair Ford, parliamentary. I believe we have to do a motion to change it from discussion to action.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct.
Oh, yeah.
So we will table this motion. And I have a motion to actually move this to action.
Chair Ford, I move that we move the legislative agenda from discussion to an action item tonight.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Bauer, second.
Properly moved in second. Any discussion on this current motion, which is to move this discussion item to action? Any discussion needed? Seeing none, do I have any nays? Okay, unanimously, we will move this discussion item to action. We have a tabled motion that I'm putting back out there. Can you restate it for me, Director Perez? I believe you were the one that put it on the table.
Sure, Chair. I motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to adopt the proposed legislative agenda.
Excellent. Been properly moved. Do I have a second?
Director Benaloga, second.
Excellent. Been properly moved in second. Any discussion needed on this motion?
I think this is another one where I'd like to voice my aye.
Okay, that sounds good. I appreciate that. Any other discussion? Okay, moving through it, Director Way, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Perez, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Benaloga, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director McVeigh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Bauer,
Aye.
Director Strado,
Aye.
and myself is also aye. Unanimously, we are voting to move this legislative agenda for 2021 to 2023. Great work, guys. Thank you. All right, next agenda item. We're almost there, hanging there. We're catching up on time. I'm like running against the GPS. Anybody else do that when you set your GPS, it says it's going to get there a certain time? And you're like, no, I'm going to get there faster. Okay, so school board boundary modifications. This is an action item. Cindy?
Yes, thank you. Close out this meeting, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes, this is an action item, a topic familiar to you. We are asking that you make a decision on the appeal to the boundary division, particularly for residences that are south of the Carver Bridge, so that they would attend the following feeder pattern: Vern Duncan Elementary School, Happy Valley Middle School, and Adrian C. Nelson High School, beginning in the 2021-22 school year.
Chair Ford, this is Director Stradle. I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation, approve of the appeal to change the boundaries for the area south of the Carver Bridge to attend the following school feeder pattern: Vern Duncan Elementary, Happy Valley Middle School, and Adrian C. Nelson High School, beginning in the 2021-2022 school year.
Floor is open, been properly moved. Do I have a second?
Director
Oh, this is what, see, this is how I know you're tired, because you're all fighting. Who has a second?
Your turn, Orlando.
Okay. he's saying you, Director Benaloga.
Director Benaloga, I second.
A second, excellent. Properly moved in second. Do I have any discussion?
I just want to say that the last meeting, when I asked for us to give it a little more time, my heart wanted to vote yes then, but my brain wanted to wait because we had advertised it as a discussion item. And I wanted to do this for a number of years or a number of times, and it went through the right process. But boundaries can be tough on families. I just wanted to make sure, since we told the community that it was a discussion the last meeting, that we went through the full process. And I'm so happy there was no discussion or any community non-support of this change. So thank you.
Excellent. Any other discussion? I will also echo what was just said, and for Ms. Johnson, who has come several times, we appreciate you, your consistency. And for all that are listening, it is a process. It's an unfortunate, tedious process, but the process also gives you time to give voice. So patience is definitely the key in the process, but in the patience, in the process, we get practices that work for more instead of less. So I appreciate everyone in this process. All right, let's do a vote. Director Strado, what you got?
Aye. Wait, did I say it loud enough? Yes.
Director Bauer.
Aye.
Director McVeigh.
Aye.
Director Benaloga.
Aye.
Director Perez.
Aye.
Director Way.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. Unanimously. You guys get to go where you want to go. Appreciate you guys' time. It is now 8:48. We have done a lot tonight. We have thought about a lot. Many of you are still with us. We appreciate you and sticking this out. We have more to do. We will not do this alone. We are a community, and together we will walk through this, and we will not only live history in the most excellent way, but when people talk about it, they will be proud and excited to talk about how well we did. So thank you guys for your time. Meeting adjourned, 8:48. See you guys later.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Great
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.